Hey guys, tonight we're not setting sail with pirates. No splintery wooden ships, no soggy treasure maps, and no sunburnt men yelling "Arr!" while trying not to fall overboard. Nope. Tonight, we're drifting into something far older, far stranger, and honestly, far more tragic, and mildly ridiculous at times. The world of Troy, a place where heroes were mighty, gods were dramatic, and absolutely nobody got the fairy tale ending they hoped for. But before we wander into ancient battlefields, dusty temples, and royal feasts where half the guests were plotting something questionable, take a second to like the video and subscribe, but only if you actually enjoy being here. And tell me where you're listening from and what time it is, because somehow it's always 2 a.m. somewhere. And 2 a.m. is exactly when stories like this hit the hardest. When the room is quiet, your brain is soft, and you suddenly think, wait, why didn't any of the Trojan heroes end up happy? Now dim those lights, switch on a fan for that soft, white noise, ocean breeze effect. Get cozy, tuck your feet in, not because imaginary rats are coming for your toes, but because even ancient Greek heroes slept better with warm feet. Probably. Let's pause for a moment. Have you ever wondered what life was really like for the heroes of Troy? Not the polished movie versions, not the slow-motion warriors with perfect hair blowing in the wind. I'm talking about the actual heroes from old oral traditions and ancient poems. Men who were brave, sure, but also deeply flawed, often unlucky, and constantly being sabotaged by gods having emotional meltdowns. Achilles, the strongest warrior alive, doomed by a prophecy and an unfortunately exposed heel. Hector, noble and loyal, trying to keep his family and city from falling apart. Odysseus, clever beyond measure, who just wanted to go home but somehow took 10 years, got kidnapped by nymphs, angered a sea god, and ended up fighting a cyclops in the process. And Paris, well, Paris was mostly just handsome and disastrous. Tonight, we're stepping gently into the long, tangled story of Troy. The love, the rage, the betrayals, the prophecies, the divine tantrums, and the endless chain of consequences that made a happy ending mathematically impossible. But don't worry, we're not here to sprint through epic battles or analyze ancient literature. We're here to drift, slowly and peacefully, through a story that's filled with sorrow, humor, fate, and the beautiful messiness of humanity. A story where heroes fight bravely, but hearts break quietly. A story where victory feels suspiciously like loss. A story where the gods meddle just enough to create chaos and then step back like, good luck with that. So settle in. Let the ancient world unfold in your imagination. The clashing shields, the blazing torches, the ocean winds blowing across deserted beaches after the war.
Let your mind wander through a time where legends were born, but joy was fragile. A time where triumph came at terrible cost, and where even the greatest heroes walked paths they never chose. Tonight's story is not about happy endings, but about why those endings never came. Ready? Let's begin. Chapter 1. The Shepherd of Quiet Waters. Morning arrives softly over a wide open landscape where vibrant green meadows stretch as far as the eye can see. The sun has not yet fully risen. Instead, it glows behind a veil of gentle clouds, casting a diffused, golden warmth over the world. Nothing is harsh here. Nothing rushes. The light settles like a soft blessing, wrapping the land in a sense of peace that seems older than time itself. Through this tranquil scene walks a solitary shepherd. He moves slowly, not because he lacks strength, but because there is no need to hurry. His steps fall in quiet rhythm with the earth beneath him. The grass bends gently under his feet, springing back with each passing moment, as though the meadow itself recognizes and welcomes his presence. His staff rests loosely in his hand, steady and familiar, an extension of every journey he has ever taken. Ahead of him moves his flock, calm, untroubled, meandering in soft clusters across the bright green pasture. They graze without fear, their breaths rising gently in the cool morning air. Each woolen back glows faintly in the filtered sunlight, creating a peaceful silhouette against the horizon. The shepherd watches them with a quiet attentiveness, guiding without pushing, leading without demanding. The meadows slope downward toward a shimmering ribbon of water. It lies still and glassy, untouched by wind or disturbance. The surface reflects the muted sky above, turning the river into a long, silver mirror framed by reeds and wildflowers. This is not a roaring stream or a dangerous current. It is a place of stillness, of refreshment, of deep and simple calm. The shepherd brings his flock to the water's edge. The sheep step forward without hesitation, drawn by the coolness and quiet of the stream. Their reflections ripple softly as they drink, the circles spreading outward in gentle patterns that disappear as quietly as they formed. The shepherd lowers himself onto a smooth stone nearby, resting his hands on his knees as he watches over them. In this moment, nothing weighs heavy on his heart. No threats, no uncertainty, no burdens too great to carry. Just peace, unshakable, steady, and complete. The air is filled with the soft hum of morning insects, the occasional call of a distant bird, and the faint rustle of the meadow grass moving like a slow wave across the hills. The shepherd closes his eyes for a moment, allowing the calm to seep into him, filling every part of his spirit with quiet assurance. In the stillness, ancient promises echo gently, as if the land itself whispers reminders of divine care and protection. You are watched over. You are led beside quiet waters. You are restored. These truths settle in the shepherd's heart like dew settling on the meadow, silent, tender, and refreshing. The flock remains close, grazing peacefully by the water, their presence a living picture of trust. They do not question where they are going. They do not fear what lies ahead. They rest because the shepherd is near, and his presence is enough. Beneath the soft, diffused sunlight, the meadow becomes a sanctuary, a place where worry loosens its grip and the mind sinks into calm. The shepherd stands again, lifting his staff with a familiar ease. The sheep stir gently, sensing his movement and beginning to gather around him. There is more journey ahead, more hills to cross, more valleys to wander, more quiet waters to discover. But the peace felt in this moment lingers, carried like a hidden treasure within every step. For this is the promise woven into the heart of creation, that the one who leads us seeks not to trouble us, but to soothe us, not to overwhelm us, but to restore us, not to drive us with fear, but to guide us with love. As the shepherd and his flock move slowly across the vibrant meadow, the still waters shimmering behind them, the scene remains a quiet reminder of unshakable peace. Peace found not in circumstances, but in the faithful presence of the one who leads. Chapter 2. The Olympian Reality Show. Gods Watching Mortals Flounder. Hey there, fellow time travelers. Tonight we wrangle with a realm so bewildering, it's like trying to assemble a couch from an IKEA catalog you accidentally dropped into a bonfire. But fear not, my sleep-seeking friends, as we wander casually through the comedic chaos of ancient Greece, where the gods were not just celestial beings, but also the original reality TV stars, watching mortals flail dramatically below like confused fish out of water. Now, imagine this. You find yourself resting on a sun-drenched cloud, plush enough to make your local mattress store green with envy. The air smells faintly of ambrosia, mixed with something that suspiciously resembles burnt popcorn. Above you, a few Olympic-level gods lounge about, their shenanigans unfolding like a never-ending soap opera, while the mortals down below, those poor, hapless souls, struggle through the treacherous landscape of their own making. You can practically hear Zeus mumbling under his breath, "These mortals could use a group chat for their planning sessions." So, have you ever wondered what it's like to be the ultimate couch potato? I mean, sure, Netflix is a solid competitor, but real gods have their own special brand of entertainment. Imagine Athena, perched on her celestial cloud, meticulously sipping her divine drink as she observes the chaos. Ha! Look at Achilles trying to rally the troops again, only to hope they remembered to bring their actual swords this time. Now, speaking of struggles, let's consider the Trojan War's aftermath. You know, the one fraught with heroics and heartache that could only be rivaled by a bad breakup at the tail end of a family gathering. Picture it. A group of legendary warriors lumbering home after years of battling over a woman, Helen, who we've already established is like the world's most complicated influencer. Honestly, if they had just sent her a thoughtful text, "Hey Helen, how about coffee instead of conflict?" maybe they could have avoided all this melodrama. And as you drift deeper into this imagined moment, you can almost hear the whiny complaints of Hector's crew as they navigate their way back across blood-soaked battlefields. After all, who hasn't gotten lost after a night of heavy drinking, only to wake up on a couch that isn't yours? It's like a twisted version of Where's Waldo? But instead, we're searching for missing sandals lost in a primordial mud pit while still adorned in armor. Ah, the lovely fragrance that fills the air. It's a heady mix of sweat, dirt, and desperate cologne attempts gone wrong. Think of it as the ancient version of Axe body spray, which only left the natural scent of mortal regret in its wake. Is it any wonder Apollo is using a cloud-encased mirror to get his hair just right? "Follow my arrows, mortals. Just don't trip over each other while trying to dodge them," he taunts, chuckling as mega-mundane mishaps ensue. You might even find yourself chuckling alongside him, seeing warriors stumble as they valiantly shout battle cries that sound more like an air horn malfunctioning. Victory! Or is it lunch? Let's touch on their journey home, a heroic narrative that sounds more like a comedy of errors. Didn't we pack camping gear? I thought you had the snacks, as they realize someone stuffed the provisions with dry bread and an elderly goat. Spoiler alert, it didn't survive the trip. Talk about barbecue gone wrong. But wait, there's more revelry unfolding atop the clouds. Watching Hera roll her eyes at her husband's antics could be a full-time job for any mortal. "Oh, Zeus, darling, that's not how you create weather. You can't just fling lightning bolts at them because they forgot your birthday last year." How else would you explain the amount of thunderclouds popping up at inappropriate moments? It's basically like Zeus parked his car in the middle of a high-rise with no consent. But amidst the divine snickering, there's a serious undercurrent. A deeper understanding that even the mightiest mortals have their ridiculous moments. Heroes are not immune to midlife crises or bad decisions. They are, after all, men tripping over their own ego while trying to be larger than life. And so it is as you lay there, drifting between this absurd sense of divine judgment and human hilarity. The gods of Olympus, like modern-day influencers, delight in documenting your every misstep while juggling their own capricious drama. What's clearer than a pristine beach sunrise, though, is the reminder that while the gods may just watch and laugh, the journey, awkward, absurd, and often misguided, will be worth it. After all, deep down, we're all just trying to make sense of our own epic tales, confusion and all, amid the vast and sometimes hilarious cosmos. Let these images swirl around in your mind, dear listener, as you dream of gods above and mortals below, navigating their own hilariously doomed quests. Because at the end of the day, it's all just one big game of cosmic charades, and the only rule? Never play without a sense of humor. Chapter 3. The Sinking of Nostalgia. As you look out upon the turbulent, dark blue sea, a lonely wooden trireme rocking gently as if trying to comfort a sulking toddler, you can't help but wonder about the heartache of the ancient Greek concept of nostos. This wasn't just a fancy-sounding word to impress your high school friends in Greek lit class. It represents the sorrowful journey of returning home, a poetic notion that, let's be honest, is about as comforting as a back rub from a porcupine. Now, picture this. You are the lone warrior, your chiseled jaw set defiantly against the stormy horizon, imagining the warm, hearty welcome you'll receive upon your return. Spoiler alert, they might throw a lavish banquet, or they might just toss you a soggy piece of bread and question your decision-making skills. Ammon of Troy was perhaps in for the most regretful surprise ever. Showing up to a homecoming party where the only thing waiting for him was a bunch of angry relatives demanding to know why he chose a 10-year detour to fight a war over a woman who, let's face it, wasn't all that into him in the first place. With the wind howling through the rigging like the ancient opera singer you'd rather not hear on American Idol, you realize you're on a boat that seems more like a glaring metaphor for the mess that is life in the aftermath of war. What could have been a peaceful homecoming is now just a specter of dread, with your best buddy, Odysseus, tangled up in calamitous mishaps that make your spinning seasick stomach feel completely justified. Let's pause for a moment to consider. How do you even pack for a trip like this? Your typical vacation checklist includes sunblock, cute sandals, maybe a good book. But in your case, your list would read more like 1. Sword, 2. Shield, 3. Existential dread about returning to face the family reunion post-war. Check. And you really hoped to avoid that conversation about, what did you do during the war? Speaking of packing, can you imagine the logistics of cramming all your heroic baggage into a wooden trireme? You'd need a card table just to go over the essentials. Okay, let's see. I'll bring my trusty spear, the shield that has probably seen things I don't want to think about, and the trophy from that ambush last summer. Wait, did anyone pack the ambrosia? What if I run into Greek gods again? You just know I'll need snacks. And where does the fun end? You've got to impress the crew with your colossal stories of victory, while secretly rethinking all of your life choices. Traveling with heroes, by the way, is much like hosting Thanksgiving dinner with your family. You're all in one place, one tiny wooden boat under the oppressive weight of each other's drama, with every wave threatening to leave you all adrift in a sea of awkward questions. So, did anyone hear back from the Greeks about that pen you loaned them? No? Well, I knew those guys were untrustworthy. But hey, what about the delicious smells wafting up from the feasts left behind? Surely you could be dreaming about lamb roasting on a spit in the evening air. And yet here you are, treated to the delightful fragrance of salty, wet wood, and the constant shriek of seagulls demanding fish like high-maintenance roommates. Every salty breeze that hits your face is like Mother Nature's way of reminding you, you don't get to sleep comfortably tonight. Suck it up, cupcake. You try to picture the idyllic homecoming. Maybe you'd step off this trireme to the raucous cheers of friends and family. But deep down, you know this moment is probably loaded with your parents' disapproval, and your ex-girlfriend standing there with a new, much better-looking boyfriend. He doesn't even carry a sword. That's right, I told you not to wait for me. I'm the hero, you'll yell. But you know that nobody is taking that seriously. Remember that moment in life where you realize you probably should have sent a text, or maybe an email? Turns out, Odysseus didn't have the luxury of short messages or memes to express his deeply tragic yet comically absurd reality. No Instagram story to show off how cool he was while gouging out the Cyclops' eye. Nope, just a wooden trireme, an ocean full of drama, and enough longing to fill a whole epic poem. As you brace for the splashes of adventure, remember, life at sea isn't just about battling foes. It's also about navigating those perilous waters of emotional baggage, both your own and your comrades'. And just like the awkward moments at family gatherings, it doesn't seem to end really. What's that? More heroics? Great! Let me just tuck away my embarrassment alongside my spear and… oh look, a whirlpool. So, as this trireme bobs ominously on the turbulent sea, remember that this journey back home isn't just fraught with danger. It's ripe with hilarity, awkward reunions, and maybe, just maybe, a lesson that not all ventures leave you better off than when you started. With the horizon wide ahead, you realize a stormy return is just part of the comedic tragedy of, well, being human. Chapter 4. Poseidon's Grumpy Face. Imagine, if you will, a powerful sea god with a flowing beard that could give even the most impressive wool sweaters a run for their money. This is no ordinary sea god, mind you. We're talking about Poseidon himself, glaring down with all the fury of an influencer who just found out their sponsored post was rejected. He stands on the churning ocean, his gargantuan trident, a glorified pitchfork on steroids, pointing menacingly at a small, insignificant Greek ship sailing away from Troy. Now, picture that ship rockin' and rollin' like it's the B-movie sequel to Titanic, The Unfortunate Return. It's fragile, wooden, and definitely not built for a showdown with Poseidon. You can almost hear the creaking protests of the planks, begging the poor souls aboard to rethink their life choices. The ocean, a deep blue that looks suspiciously like someone spilled a tank of ink, roars louder than a pack of angry geese on a mission to steal picnic food. As Poseidon narrows his eyes, clearly peeved, you might wonder if a guy who's literally the god of the sea could have a few better things to do. Like maybe organizing a beach barbecue with his fellow gods? But no, instead, he's focused on this tiny ship, probably muttering something along the lines of, "Who do they think they are, leaving before I finish my dramatic monologue?" It's high drama with a touch of divine indignation. Now, what could possibly tick off a sea god that much? Well, let's rewind for a moment. This ship is manned by a ragtag bunch of Greek heroes, the kind that would undoubtedly populate a reality show about dysfunctional family vacations. They just wrapped up a decade of conflict, wandering through the mess of the Trojan War and arguing about whose turn it is to haul the ambrosia, Greek snacks that, let's be honest, sound a bit like fancy yogurt. Imagine the captain at the helm, probably screeching at his crew. No, we're not turning back. I refuse to let some angry sea god ruin my perfectly planned route home to whatever awaits us. Soggy bread, mandatory awkward family meetings? No thank you. Meanwhile, a wave crashes down, and the captain realizes that this is not just a sea trip, but a full-on Greek tragedy. Check your ticket, folks. It seems we're bound for disaster. Poseidon, with his hair flowing like a shampoo commercial gone rogue, unleashes a tempest worthy of a Hollywood blockbuster, proving that every sea god needs a good storm for dramatic effect. The ship shudders as if it's just seen the price of gas. You can practically hear it begging, "I'm just a tiny wooden vessel. I didn't ask for this." Cue Poseidon cracking a pained smile, because who doesn't love a little existential dread alongside their ill-fated voyage? Suddenly, the atmosphere shifts. The crew, who were previously trading heroic tales, find themselves slipping and sliding around the deck, their noble banter
replaced by panicked yells. "Hold on to your swords, boys, and for the love of all gods, don't lose the ambrosia." It's a Greek chorus of chaos, where everyone sounds more like they're auditioning for a slapstick comedy than bravely facing Poseidon's fury. Now, here's where it gets hilariously absurd. As the ship pitches and rolls, one guy struggles valiantly to tie a knot while another is desperately trying to interpret the handheld map. Spoiler alert, it's upside down and has X marking the spot somewhere in oblivion. Surely this guy will win the award for Most Inept Navigator of 1250 BCE, a title no one wants, but everyone seems destined to earn. In the midst of this chaos, someone yells, "I thought you said Poseidon was on our side." To which the captain, clutching his trident in faux bravery, can only sigh and reply, "Right, that's what Odysseus said." but I can't shake the feeling he just liked to stir the pot." The crew exchanges worried glances, acknowledging that Odysseus was quite the infamous trickster. Who knew if he had made some deal with Poseidon that included ominous returns or horrifying weather forecasts? The salty sea spray stings their faces like the uninvited truth at a family reunion. As they navigate Poseidon's sea of angst, they start to fear that getting home might involve more than just dodging waves. It might involve dodging judgment, too. What do we tell our families when we get back? Sorry, we left a god furious with us? How does that sit on a resume? The absurdity of it all becomes painfully clear. You didn't just embark on a journey back to the cozy comforts of home. You barged right into the middle of a divine tantrum. In that moment, the crew must confront an uncomfortable truth. For all their heroics, they were merely pawns in Poseidon's tempestuous game. Next time, let's just stay away from anything remotely divine. Sounds like a better vacation choice, honestly. And as they bob on the waves amidst the chaos, drenched and bewildered, you realize that life's rough seas often come with unexpected storms. And you, dear dreamer, drift off to sleep knowing that even in the face of raging gods, a hearty laugh or a less than glamorous shipboard dance might be just what you need to weather the storm.
Chapter 5. The Grumpy Cyclops and His Cave of Regrets. Imagine waking up one morning to find yourself in a cave. Not just any cave, mind you, but the lair of a massive, grumpy cyclops named Polyphemus. And when I say grumpy, think of someone whose morning coffee was replaced with lukewarm goat milk. Yep, that's the vibe. This cyclops has only one eye, and quite frankly, he's as displeased with life as a cat left alone during a thunderstorm. As you blink away the remnants of sleep, you take in the surroundings. The cave is dark and damp, with the smell of wet stone mixed with something that can only be described as an unfortunate combination of cheese and regret. Here, there's a half-eaten pile of what looks suspiciously like mutton, only heavily seasoned with existential disappointment. The shadows in the cave flicker, as if to emphasize just how unfortunate this scenario truly is. And your first thought is, well, this isn't exactly a 5-star resort. Suddenly, you hear a loud grumble from the depths of the cave. It's Polyphemus, standing in the entrance like an unwelcome bouncer at a nightclub. "Who's disturbing my nap time?" he roars, shaking the loose pebbles off his rough wooden staff like they were the leftover crumbs of last night's tempestuous snack. You muster all your courage to respond to the giant staring you down with one watery eye. Me? Just a humble traveler trying to find the exit. Yes, definitely the exit, and not anything you were planning on serving for dinner." However, the words tumble out with the grace of a 3-legged goat on a hot summer day. Polyphemus squints suspiciously, but then he rubs his eye as if it's a tired doorknob. Clearly, life's not been kind to him. After all, who can blame the guy for being slightly miffed? Here he is, the last of his kind, living like a hermit in a less than glamorous cave while everyone else is off exploring the shores of Odysseus's adventures. "Do you know how lonely it gets in here?" he huffs, exasperation punctuating his words like a toddler who just realized their crayon drawing of a cat looks more like an alien squid. "This cave is supposed to be my sanctuary, a place of solitude and reflection. And yet, every 5 minutes, someone trips and falls right into it." As he rants, you can't help but notice the impressive way he grips his staff. It's as if he's ready to skewer the next person to interrupt his manic musings. You sense the gravity of the situation, not so much gravitational pull, as it is the magnetic pull of impending disaster if you don't handle this conversational landmine just right. "So, tell me, little morsel," Polyphemus continues, leaning down menacingly, "what is it you seek? Help me understand why my cave has become a pit stop for lost heroes and unfortunate locals. Nothing should be able to frighten a cyclops like me." You glance around, contemplating the cave's decor for a sad moment. If you're going to be stuck here, at least might as well critique the interior design. Stony walls adorned with fuzzy mold? Check. Treasures left over from erstwhile travelers, an old sandal, an unidentifiable goat skull, and an eerie collection of spoons? Double check. It's like an archaeological dig gone wrong, as if fervent students of history were left here overnight with nothing but an ambition to create a catastrophe. My dear giant, you say with a laugh that's way too close to a nervous squeak. Most folks these days are just looking for tasty ambrosia sandwiches, or maybe an Instagram filter that doesn't make them look like an overripe tomato. No one wakes up and says, "Hey, do you want to go poke that Cyclops? Sounds like a blast." The poor Cyclops scratches his head, looking genuinely baffled by the fact that anyone would find his existence mildly less interesting than a pile of goat dung. Mundane, mundane. Look at me. One eye, towering stature, snackable life. Instead, here I am curled up in my cave like an oversized potato throwing a tantrum. This sparks a moment of shared humor, surprisingly. Well, my giant friend, you venture, perhaps you should consider how you decorate. A few minimalist touches here and there, perhaps some ferns, or dare I say, a chic throw rug might elevate this place. Polyphemus pauses, like an actual light bulb has flickered in his giant brain. He gestures to the various remnants of his life. You're telling me all this could have vibe potential? Maybe I could host my own cave art class. Now that would liven things up. Suddenly, the image of Cyclops-led art lessons dances through your mind, complete with dramatic brushstrokes and unfortunate discussions around the meaning of existence. You chuckle softly at the absurdity of it all, feeling slightly at ease despite being face to eye with a giant creature. Well, look at you, you say, heartily embracing the surrealism unfolding. Who knew the biggest monster in Greece just needed a motivation boost? Maybe put on some mood lighting, work on your presentation, and add a "keep off the grass" sign. You'll be the talk of the town. With laughter in the air, surprising laughter coming from a creature that was meant to instill dread, you sense there's hope to be found in this curious encounter. Who knew that perceiving Polyphemus not just as an enemy, but as a lost soul longing for companionship could turn an impending doom into something mildly delightful? As the echoes of your banter ring through the cavern, you realize that behind every grumpy giant is a story waiting to be told. And perhaps, as the laughter fades into whispers, what binds you both isn't fear or anger, but an appreciation for the downright absurdity of life, even if it comes with one gigantic eye and a cave full of unfortunate relics. Now that's a cave you'd want to explore, preferably with a nice ambrosia appetizer in hand before things get out of control again. And with a slight yawn, you begin to slide your way back into dreamland, hoping to find a blend of humble giants and willing heroes along the way. Chapter 6: Calypso's Shoreline Dilemma and the Irrationally Brave. Hey guys, welcome back to another adventure that smells slightly better than last week's disappointment. Today we dive into the sun-soaked shores of ancient Troy, where the warriors have less chance of getting their happy endings than a bad romantic comedy. Imagine our main character, a brave warrior just off a ship, feeling a bit more windblown than usual. Maybe feeling a bit lost? Much like that rogue sock you lost in the laundry, or the plot of your favorite television show after season 2. Yes, dear listener, it's time to explore the life decisions of those who had armor shiny enough to scare off a rabid squirrel, but still managed to trip over their own feet while being pursued by hungry nymphs. But first, hit that like button if you enjoy this cozy journey through hilariously misguided choices, and feel free to subscribe if you like watching history get the absurd treatment it deserves, but only if you truly enjoy it, of course. Now, as we begin our journey, let's dim the lights and put on that fan because things are about to heat up. I mean, it's a Mediterranean shore after all. Picture it. You, an honorable warrior looking for adventure, only to be mired in an awkward romantic entanglement with a stunningly beautiful nymph who's clearly got a thing for immortality and impromptu serenades. Just imagine. What does it feel like to have a literal goddess throw herself at you? Do you politely decline, or do you sweet-talk your way out of this slightly uncomfortable position? Ever found yourself trying to explain to a seemingly desperate companion that forever isn't really on your bucket list? And what if that companion happens to own a magical island? Choices, choices. As you ponder these realities, let's drop you right into that sun-drenched, rocky shore of 1250 BCE, where it appears the plot is thicker than a Greek hero's accent. The meditation of sunshine gives way as you awaken on the vibrant coast, the sea breeze teasing your hair and the scent of salt wafting in, mingling with the faint, floral aroma of nearby blooming poppies. You shake off the last embers of slumber, and as your eyes adjust, there she stands, Calypso, the radiant nymph with long, dark hair cascading over her bare shoulders like a waterfall of midnight. It's as if she's just stepped out of a magazine cover right next to an ad for Greek olive oil, dazzling and impossibly alluring. "Welcome, brave warrior," she coos, her voice sounding like a soft lullaby sung underwater. "Here on my vibrant isle you may find comfort, companionship, and the promise of immortality. Stay with me, and let us traverse the sands of time together." Now, let's take a moment here. Immortality sounds pretty enticing, am I right? But consider the implications. Would you still be eager to have your favorite pizza for eternity? What if you ended up running into your interminably clingy former partners? Forever? You can just picture that, can't you? Hidden under a rock, like, "Nope, not talking to you for the next 300 years, thank you very much." Calypso shines brightly, as if her job description includes dream weaver, and you can practically hear the seductive angelic choir that usually accompanies someone trying to lure you in. The waves crash gently behind her as she continues. "I have everything a wandering soul could desire, and more. Just think of all the poetry we could write together." You chuckle nervously, picturing yourself struggling to rhyme anything more complex than rose and nose. Meanwhile, creativity doesn't seem to flourish in the midst of eternal immortality. Your mind races. What does forever even look like when you're standing on an island, likely resembling that one friend who just won't leave a party? The thought lingers like an awkward silence in a room full of people who've just realized they have nothing in common. With every passing moment, the realization dawns. Immortality sounds somewhat exhausting. Calypso," you venture, trying to tread carefully. "That sounds lovely, truly it does. But what happens to your parties after 1,000 years? Will they still be fun? Or will I just be the last guy still trying to enjoy snacks, while everyone else has moved on to the next century's trend?" "Fret not," she replies, a playful smile flickering across her lips like a fun neon sign on a dark street. "We shall feast on ambrosia forever and play games made of starlight. The music will never grow old." Is this sounding familiar yet? For it's akin to those old wedding invitations you receive, but with the added pressure of eternal commitment. Sure, it sounds magical until you remember the annoying intricacies of an everlasting relationship. Love you for eternity suddenly feels like it comes with unpaid bills and problematic in-laws for the next epoch. So here you are, standing at the crossroads of life, where one direction leads to continued mortal adventures, and the other to an endless beachside existence with a beautiful nymph and an eternity of questionable choices. As you ponder the proposition, Calypso watches with hopeful eyes, her dark locks swaying gently in the salty breeze. And you can't help but chuckle softly, imagining how this saga could easily become a sensational rom-com with an hilariously tragic twist that would leave even the sharpest critics bewildered. "Tell you what," you start, "how about I just take a quick dip in the ocean and ponder my life choices from the safety of my own tragic, mundane routine instead? Maybe grab a slice of that pizza I mentioned.
I hear they do great crusts in Troy." Calypso's smile falters for just a heartbeat, and you can see the wheels of imagination turning. But before she can respond, you take a deep breath, glancing toward the horizon, realizing that while
Adventures may blossom, and enchanting nymphs may tempt you with immortality, there's a certain joy in simply enjoying the fleeting nature of life, one slice of pizza at a time. And with that thought, you glance back at Calypso, ready to dive into a wave of laughter. A whole lot more entertaining than eternal ambrosia, I assure you. As the sea bubbles tenderly against the rocks and softens the laughter of your narrative, you can't help but smile. In the hilarious unpredictability of life, perhaps a few clumsy choices are just what make the journey worthwhile. Chapter 7. A Hero's Descent into Soulful Silhouettes. Hey guys, welcome back to yet another delightful dive into history that's quirkier than your uncle's collection of Hawaiian shirts. Tonight, we embark on a journey that's foggier than the memory of that one time you accidentally texted your boss instead of your friend. Yes, dear listener, we're off to ancient Greece, where heroes of yore didn't just battle mythic beasts, but also faced the daunting challenge of, well, personal choices. But before we thrust ourselves into a scene so gloomy it could use a splash of highlighter, don't forget to hit that like button if you're enjoying our little escapade through poorly planned life choices. You know the drill. Subscribe and comment only if you truly enjoy this journey. We wouldn't want to overcommit like a hero to an eternal dance party with a nymph named Calypso. Now would we? Now, as you settle in, dim the lights and crank that fan to an existential chill. Let's get cozy. Imagine standing there in ancient Greece, staring into the depths that would make even the bravest among us ponder existential dread. Ever thought about what it'd be like to navigate the underworld while simultaneously wondering if you left the oven on back in Troy? Or how about choosing between your ancient responsibility to bring home the victory or just taking a nice long nap surrounded by some friendly flowers? Congratulations! You've just awakened in 1250 BCE, right before the grand finale of the Bronze Age, with merely a few foggy figures swirling around. An average Tuesday, right? All dressed in robes that look suspiciously like they're made from the fabric of clouds and, possibly, the freshly departed. Brace yourself. It's about to get intimate in the land of the dead. As you rub the sleep from your eyes, the mist begins to lift like a bad hangover, revealing the ominous entrance to the underworld. It's a scene ripped straight from your wildest nightmares, complete with ghostly white shapes drifting around like confused shoppers on Black Friday. The atmosphere? Let's say it's vaguely reminiscent of that time you decided to clean out the fridge and discovered something furry lurking in the back. Here you are, a lone Greek hero, mounting your own awkward psychological journey. Ghosts drift about, their pale forms meandering in the fog, seeking closure like you on a Monday morning, searching for the "where the heck did I leave my keys" mystery. The robed figures surround you, their vague murmurings indistinct, but oddly reminiscent of that group of folks you overheard arguing passionately about which is superior, pine nuts or walnuts. You take a deep breath, inhaling the musty air that smells like a blend of mildew and existential crisis. Isn't that pleasant? The ambience really sets the mood for pondering your life choices. Choices that have now led you to stand underneath a giant stone archway that could use some serious renovations. Seriously, did nobody think to call a contractor about this? Basic maintenance can't be that hard, can it? But you're not here for home improvement tips or a ghostly debate. Oh no, you've got far nobler goals. Perhaps you're searching for long-lost friends, like Achilles, who's too busy sulking to break out of his tragic cycle of brooding and bad hair decisions. Or maybe Odysseus, who, believing himself some kind of ultimate strategist, got a bit lost on his way back from Troy. Suddenly, you hear a distant voice, echoing in that perfect horror movie way. Is anyone there? It's both chilling and hilarious, All the ghosts must be collectively rolling their eyes like teenagers who just discovered their parents' embarrassing dance moves. And with that inviting question, a jolt of clarity hits you like the fresh aroma of gym socks after laundry day. Is anyone there? You ponder. But wait, who would actually have the ambition to answer that? Is it the anguished souls still angered by their own shortcomings? Or perhaps the cheerful shade of some ancient hero who took a wrong turn down Spirit Boulevard? Either way, I'd be inclined to lean toward that high-spirited soul who'd encourage you to grab a donut and just get comfortable with the absurdity of Paradise Lost. And speaking of comfort, could anyone find that elusive golden fleece, or possibly a comfortable armchair to plop down in while oblivion reigns? As you traverse further down this foggy path, you can almost hear the soul of a hapless centaur muttering about underworld rent prices and the rising costs of ethereal oat milk. Let me guess, you think. Real estate agents in this era would also carry a side job in humor. You shake your head, a grin creeping across your face. Because in all that murky doubt, in all the oddities of this ghostly ambiance, there's a warmth blooming within. Just like Romans cramming into a market stall for that last fig, so are you inextricably linked to this whimsical absurdity we call life, or in this case, afterlife. As you stand there amidst the swirling souls, pondering your choices, one thought hits you amidst the chaos. Perhaps it's time to reclaim your heroic status, one ridiculous decision at a time. Because let's be honest, the real tragedy of those heroes wasn't that they ended up in the underworld, but rather the fact that they rarely paused to chuckle at the ludicrousness of their fate. So, my intrepid dreamer, as you contemplate wading through the whimsical chaos of characters both terrifying and strangely relatable, remember, even midst philosophical wanderings in the damp underbelly of the mythological world, you can always opt for a giggle instead of a grimace. Humor might just be the elixir of life, or loss. And with that, as the fog begins to thicken again, and those pale voices fade into a ghostly choir, you understand, navigating through murky decisions can be hilariously enlightening, even in a mythological afterlife. Keep that in mind as we venture further down this peculiar history woven with snickers and smirks. Chapter 8. The Wayward Ship and the Bumpy Nile. Ahoy, dear dreamer! Picture this, a magnificent Bronze Age ship, its proud sails flapping in the wind like a swan trying to impress a flock of seagulls. However, as luck would have it, the ship, or maybe its captain who had just downed one too many goblets of wine, has been blown off course. Straining against the current with all the grace of a toddler on rollerblades, it drifts dangerously close to the banks of the River Nile. If the ship's got one thing going for it, it's that the ancient Egyptians, bless their sturdy pyramids, are about as easy to spot as a walrus in a tuxedo. Now, let's immerse ourselves in this nautical misunderstanding. Imagine the sails creaking under the strain and the wood groaning like a particularly uncomfortable chair at your uncle's Thanksgiving dinner. Do you think the crew is frantically attempting to steer this lovely vessel away from its impending doom? Sadly, no. They're too busy arguing about the best method for roasting peacock, which, in hindsight, is probably not a topic one should ponder while barreling toward Egypt. As they weave near the shore, the tall, majestic columns of ancient temples rise in the distance, looking like a jolly bunch of giants trying to break into a, very exclusive, vertical dance-off. You can almost hear their imaginary chatter. I don't care if you've been here 2 millennia, hit the high note or get out. The ship sways, threatens to tip over, and the crew, still deep in culinary debate, fails to notice the rapidly approaching landmass that, let's face it, is becoming less land and more uh-oh. So here you are, aboard this wandering vessel, which has the subtle grace of a drunken elephant on a pogo stick. Can you smell the salty sea air? Perhaps it's mixed with the faintest whiff of roasted garlic, courtesy of the ship's rather ambitious cook, who thought it wise to bring dinner along for the ride. As your ship bumps along the waves, it suddenly dawns on you, would ancient sailors have had any idea what they were doing? Or were they all just really good at faking confidence while hoping for a pleasant ending? Suddenly, squawking seagulls swoop down, squabbling for a bite of that esteemed roasted peacock, or perhaps a misplaced deckhand. Let's face it, those seabirds have no qualms about declaring their very own Hunger Games about any extra scraps drifting about. An awkward scene is playing out, far less battleship and more lifeboats and Lunchables. Now cast your gaze back to the crew. They're all huddled together, drenched in sweat, and half-heartedly flapping at the sails as they arc like a cat in a bid to escape a bath. One intrepid sailor, looking remarkably similar to a confused crab, raises an anchor and hollers, "Let's steer clear of Egypt." But alas, no one hears him over the chorus of "How to Stuff a Peacock" erupting in the galley. You can almost hear the echoes of ancient hieroglyphs as if they're anticipating an appearance, like a papyrus reality show where everyone is wondering what will happen next. Will they be stranded on the Nile? Will there be a dramatic cook-off featuring the region's finest recipes? Will they call in a distress signal that sounds suspiciously like a dying goat? And wouldn't you know it, as the ship haphazardly glides closer to land, still debating the advantages of roasting versus boiling, you can't help but wonder about those monuments looming ahead. Is this where the drama unfolds? Are the Egyptians watching the spectacle unfold with an amused twinkle in their eyes as they sip their drinks and chuckle at the absurdity? Perhaps they're placing bets on what culinary disaster will go down once the ship runs aground. As the ship lurches forward, it's the moment when droll ancient history collides with unrelenting chaos. The sensible thing to do, of course, would be for the crew to throw down a plank and lay claim to terra firma. But that would be too easy, wouldn't it? Instead, the ship's captain, a robust figure clad in an outfit that seems to exude both pride and seafood odor, leans way over the edge, asking, "Are those columns talking back?" Splash. In accordance with the laws of foolishness, someone tips the captain overboard, initiating his very own aquatic adventure directly to the River Nile. Meanwhile, the ship careens forward, haphazardly docking itself upon the banks as confused locals emerge to witness the spectacle. Have those sailors just arrived? Or are they performing a water ballet gone horribly wrong? One local inquires, scratching his head, mortified and amused in equal measure. And just like that, as the sun sets in a cascade of orange and pink behind the columns, the audacious ship and its crew become a footnote in the grand tale of Egyptian history. A situation so absurd, it might have been the subject of some very poorly drawn sketches on cave walls. As we draw this chapter to a close, take a deep breath of that salty air mixed with roasted garlic. Because, dear listener, the high seas of history are always replete with unexpected bends and misadventures. Each chapter a reminder to approach the journey of life and your own dinner parties with a splash of humor and a wink at absurdity. Wink. Chapter 9. Menelaus' wrestling match with his destiny. Hey there, dreamer. Tonight we journey back to an era when men wore bronze like it was the latest trend, and gods played fast and loose with the fabric of reality, just to keep things spicy. Have you ever tried to make a decision while battling a lion that can change forms? No? Well, buckle up, because our friend Menelaus is about to put on quite the wrestling show, in full bronze armor. But before we dive in, have you ever found yourself wrestling with life's little annoyances? You know, like choosing between cereal or leftover pizza for breakfast? Or perhaps deciding whether the universe conspiring against you is actually just your cat glaring while you attempt to fold laundry. Imagine a time when such uncertainties meant possibly battles with shape-shifting deities instead. Much more intense than your domestic squabbles, I must say. So, let's dim the lights, turn on a fan, and get yourself completely settled, since you're about to wake up in 1250 BCE, a time when people probably still thought it was okay to use hair gel made from fish oils. Congratulations! Today is your lucky day. You've just unceremoniously woken up in a scene more complicated than a relationship status on social media. And why are you here? Because, my friend, The world of the Mycenaean Greeks is as chaotic as a toddler at a birthday party. And the heroes? Well, let's just say their idea of a happy ending was as elusive as finding a decent Wi-Fi signal in a remote cottage. Now, as the sun sets and the air fills with the promise of drama, let's wander into our main event. Our tale brings us to the shores of Troy, where Menelaus, clad head to toe in bronze armor, it's heavier than it sounds, stands toe-to-toe with none other than Proteus, a shifting sea god who's mid-transformation, fighting both the battle of fate and his fluctuating body image, transforming into a fierce lion, quite likely thinking, "This is going to impress the Instagram followers." Imagine this scene: Menelaus, sweating bullets, which in this era is a horrible figure of speech, grunting through the far too strategic dance of wrestling. Let's be real. The clash echoing through the air sounds like two overzealous goats fighting for the last piece of hay. You can almost smell the salty tang of the sea mingling with Menelaus's desperation as he grapples with a creature whose only goal seems to be giving him a solid backache. The sounds from the crowd, or rather the handful of passers-by who've decided this is better than their evening gossip, add to the spectacle. Do you think it's harder to wrestle a shape-shifting god? Or is it just like arguing with your spouse about taking out the trash? One villager muses, scratching his head while sipping on oddly named round fish stew. And wouldn't you know it? Everyone seems to forget this isn't just another wrestling machismo contest. This is a matter of epic, poetic, and, well, mythological consequences. The sea around them bubbles, making this look less like a heroic showdown and more like a particularly bad bath moment. Picture Menelaus awkwardly sidestepping to avoid an accidental dunk in the ocean, while strategically trying to grab the lion-like figure. If only he had realized that wrestling a sea god should probably come with detailed instructions, or at least a referee to blow a whistle every time a headlock devolved into a shoulder ride. "Is there a doctor in the house?" muses the audience, oddly entertained, while Menelaus, still pinned to the sandy ground, wonders if he'd peaked just a tiny bit too soon in life. I mean, we're all familiar with the clash of titans living their best lives, but this felt more like the clash of titans suffering from a very public existential crisis. Now, half his brain is saying, "You've got this," while the other half, trapped in a lion's jaws, echoes back, "Do I really?" And honestly, on a good day, don't we all juggle a little self-doubt while trying to keep up appearances? Just pretend it's a lion-shaped pillow, he thinks. You've got this. But, alas, it's a lion-shaped god, and they didn't include a safety net in the budget, apparently. Meanwhile, as Menelaus struggles with this literal bestial identity crisis, the backdrop of Troy looms like a guest who shows up way too early to a party. The city walls are as immovable as a New Year's resolution, and somehow everyone's invested in this absurd little chaos unfolding right outside their door. As the fight continues, the audience's cheers turning into outright laughter, it becomes clear that this isn't just about winning a skirmish. It's a metaphor, dear friend, wrapped in a lion-shaped riddle. It's about the struggles and absurdities life throws at us, because it usually does manage to feel like standing in a wrestling match with your dreams. So, men and women of the audience, nearby giggling over the wrestling in the sand, are you not entertained? Because whether you leave this moment clutching dreams of glory or tangled in a lion mane, one thing is certain. Menelaus's wrestling match isn't just against a god, it's against the unending chaos of existence. And who would have thought? The truth is, somewhere between the jaws of a lion and the laughter of an onlooking crowd, our weary hero might just discover that a happy ending doesn't always look like a fairy tale, but instead, it might just be snorting in belly laughs and the chaos that life serves right at your feet. So, breathe in that salty air, the scent of adventure, and know this wrestling match is only just the beginning of a hilariously intertwined tapestry of fate. And, dear dreamer, sometimes the absurdity of it all is precisely what makes life just a little less serious and a lot more entertaining. Chapter 10. Diomedes, trust issues, and unwelcome guests. Hey there, dreamer. Tonight, we're diving deeper into the wild world of ancient Greece, where silver-mouthed oracles whispered prophecies to keep life intriguing, and heroes were treated like modern-day influencers, sans the glossy filter. But instead of contests over likes and shares, these folks were more inclined to challenge one another to epic duels and probably argue over who had the better goat. Now, imagine for a moment that you're rolling out of bed in 1250 BCE, and it's not quite the cozy experience you'd expect. What do you do when your wife is being a little too friendly with the local hero, and your interest in armor isn't just about aesthetics? Are you the type who confronts your adversaries head-on, or do you take a more passive-aggressive approach, like sending them an awkwardly worded letter? Spoiler alert, Diomedes clearly preferred some swordplay. So, with that in mind, dim the lights, put on a fan, and get comfy, because we're about to join our buddy Diomedes, who's dealing with a situation more tangled than a ball of yarn caught in a hurricane. In the grand palace of Argos, Diomedes stood tall, ideally holding a goblet of sparkling wine. But let's be honest, this was ancient Greece, and his goblet likely had more scratches than your favorite coffee mug. Tensions were as thick as the armor he wore, and if you thought your family Thanksgiving gatherings were awkward, just try picturing this. A mighty warrior facing down both a jealous lover and an unfaithful wife. Sounds like the plot of a low-budget soap opera, doesn't it? The great hall echoed with uncertainties. Shadows danced ominously as Diomedes cast a wary glance towards the corner, where his wife, fair and enchanting, was hardly aware of the brewing storm. Did she even notice the veiled tension between her and that charming rogue lurking in the shadows? Spoiler alert, absolutely not. One could say her awareness was more about choosing which flavor of olives to serve than the implications of embracing the nearby heartthrob. Can you imagine what that encounter must have smelled like? A delightful mix of sandalwood incense and sweeping emotions. Unfaithfulness truly packs a punch. The air felt so thick you could almost use it to spread butter on your morning toast. Meanwhile, Diomedes was fuming, not unlike a pot left on the stove for too long prepping for the evening feast. "Why must I contend with this?" he muttered under his breath, clenching his fists so tightly that he probably shattered a few knuckles in the process. The shadows loomed nearer, and for a fleeting moment, you couldn't help but think they were mere figments of his imagination. That is, until the ominous figure of his rival threw back his head and laughed, much like an overly confident cat presenting its latest catch. A mouse, perhaps, or maybe even something more absurd, like a tiny bronze shield. "Ah, Diomedes, what brings you to my little corner of chaos?" The rival sneered with a smirk that you could swear came from a discount villain catalog. "Is it your sword, or your inability to see what's right before your very eyes?" It was like watching an overly dramatic game of rock, paper, scissors. You just knew someone was about to end up hurt, possibly both. Now let's take a step back. Have you ever confronted your own inner demons? You know, the ones that bubble up while you're just trying to pick between another Netflix binge or doing laundry? Or when you're debating whether to text your significant other about that sock they've borrowed? Modern relationships have their own layers of complications. But here, our warrior was tasked not only with defending his honor, but engaging in a duel of wits and feelings, an arena significantly less engaging than a working Wi-Fi connection 3 weeks into your remote work-from-home scenario. You could practically hear the crowd's anticipation growing. Diomedes, with his broad shoulders and helmet poised, was ready for a confrontation that felt like putting on mismatched socks. You just know it's going to end up way messier than you could have ever imagined. As he squared his jaw, he couldn't help but wonder if, perhaps, just perhaps, a little witty banter could resolve this issue. How about I offer you a sandwich and we work this out calmly? One can dream. But in this case, an olive branch would hardly suffice. Both men were fated for an impending clash, as if the gods themselves sat back on their lofty clouds, popcorn in hand, reveling in the melodrama unfolding below.
The tension hung in the air like a particularly awkward silence after someone's just told a very questionable joke. And so, our brave hero found himself on the precipice of calamity, not unlike when you walk too close to the edge of a cliff while mumbling the lyrics to your favorite song. One misstep, and you risk it all. Only instead of falling from grace into the sea, he faced plunging into a web of deceit, where clammy hands and sharpened voices would soon collide. "All right, my dear rival," he bellowed, sound echoing off the palace walls. "If you want a tete-a-tete, so be it. But remember, I always play for keeps." Well, that's a salty little promise, wouldn't you say? And amidst this chaos of triangles, fiery hearts, clashing swords, and envy dripping more potent than the finest honey, Diomedes, our flawed hero, would soon discover that while engaging in melodramatic showdowns may seem comical, achieving a happy ending often requires a little more than just a sword and a smug glance. Sometimes, it calls for even the fiercest warrior to figure out what truly lies beneath the surface, a realm filled with more quirks and predicaments alike. So let's breathe deep, laugh at the absurdity, and acknowledge that perhaps a happy ending doesn't always involve swords, glory, or brave.
Knights. Sometimes it lies within the unpicking of tangled relationships and the hilarious misadventures that make life all the more colorful, even when that color is shades of olive green jealousy. Now, if you'll just handle this with the grace of a man falling off a goat, you might emerge victorious after all. Chapter 11. Diomedes, the Unrecognized Journeys. Hey there, dreamer. Tonight, we explore a curious episode of ancient history where epic heroes felt as underappreciated as the last kid picked in gym class. Our dear friend Diomedes is about to embark on a journey like no other, one that's less about glory and more about getting lost on the way to the grocery store. But first, let's take a moment to ponder. Have you ever woken up in a foreign place, completely befuddled by the local customs? Or maybe you found yourself awkwardly waving at someone who's waving at the person behind you. We've all been there, right? Imagine trying to navigate that confusion with a sword and a pair of sandals that have seen better days. Does anyone know where to find the nearest Starbucks when you're stuck in 1250 BCE? As we journey through time, let us dim the lights, put on the fan, and make ourselves cozy, perhaps drawing a little comfort from the thought that, even in ancient times, people were just as lost, confused, and hilariously human as we are today. Now let's board Diomedes' rickety ship and sail toward the hazy shores of ancient Italy. Spoiler alert, he probably didn't pack snacks. So as you settle in, allow yourself to wander into the late Bronze Age, a time when people believed that the sun revolved around the earth and that winning a prize in the Olympics was about as likely as a cat winning a karaoke contest. Congratulations, you've just woken up in 1250 BCE, where the rolling waves might be less inviting and more like the annoying neighbor who keeps borrowing your tools. Diomedes, a hero whose name might not exactly echo through the ages like a majestic classical symphony, stood at the helm of his small vessel. The ship creaked underfoot like an old cat trying to get comfortable, and you could almost hear the wood groaning as if it were contemplating life choices. Why were we thinking of setting sail again? Wasn't there a bountiful banquet waiting back home? But the rumblings of adventure had tickled Diomedes' heroic bones, and off he went, abandoning the comfort of Argos in search of, well, let's be honest, probably just a less dramatic way to live. As he sailed toward the foreign coastline, the salty sea air brushed against his face, mingling with the unmistakable odor of fresh fish, a scent that's both delightful and deeply questionable, depending on how long it's been since the last shower. Have you ever debated the merits of bathing at sea versus rolling in the dirt for a quick refresh? In Diomedes' world, cleanliness was less of a priority than finding your way home without losing your head over petty squabbles. The gentle lapping of the waves was a soothing soundtrack of misadventure leading the brave warrior onward. But perhaps he should have really read the fine print on that "Going Abroad" brochure. What does vacation mean when your notion of fun includes dodging spears and deciphering the bewildering accent of the local dialect? Now, as we venture deeper into the quaint quagmire of history, we can't help but wonder what went through Diomedes' mind while staring mystified at the distant shores. Were they fabled? Were they cursed? Or, if you were being entirely optimistic, did they serve amazing pasta? The poor fellow wasn't sure whether he was an adventurer or simply the butt of every local joke, which is a sentiment all too relatable when trying to order dinner in a country where the menu is indecipherable. And then it hit him. Despite his fearsome reputation, in this vast, uncertain world, he was destined to be forgotten like last week's leftovers. Would he be remembered for his bravery and wit? Perhaps a statue would be erected in his honor. Or maybe, just maybe, he would become the punchline of an ancient joke. What did the hero say while he was lost at sea? "I'll be back, just as soon as I find my way through this pasta maze." The truth is that our dear Diomedes, much like many of us, faced the terrifying possibility of fading into obscurity. His adventures might never be sung about in grand ballads. Instead, tales would be told of other, more flamboyant heroes, like Achilles, who, let's face it, had a flair for dramatics that would leave even the most seasoned soap opera star feeling inadequate. At last, the shores of Italy began to take shape, and Diomedes couldn't help but feel a fragment of hope mixed with the bittersweet taste of déjà vu. Was he sailing into the land of opportunity or the setting of a real-life tragedy? History tends to favor the charismatic. He was merely a minor god, the understudy in the play of life. As he drew closer, the beaches buzzed with strange creatures, ponderously waddling olive farmers and shouty locals who were far too preoccupied with their business to pay attention to a warrior fresh off the seas. "Hey, did you see that guy? I think he's lost," one would likely say, chuckling over a rough jug of wine. With a sigh, Diomedes resigned himself to muddle through. Perhaps he'd find a little hideaway, rent a cute villa, and open an artisan bread shop or something equally quaint. Just imagine, Diomedes' delightful bread, a fancier title than rude hero who left his problems at sea. It has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? And so, our hero approached those distant shores, a blend of hope, confusion, and more than a hint of hunger, or possibly dread. Whatever awaited him, the tale of Diomedes was about to take some unexpected turns that would leave us scratching our heads and laughing nervously at the absurdity of it all. And perhaps that's what life is all about. In this world of unexpected journeys and bumbling heroes, it turns out we're all seeking a happy ending of our own, even if we sometimes have to sail through a few waves of absurdity first. So as you drift deeper into sleep, remember that legacy is often a humorous twist of fate, where the punchline can lead to the sweetest dreams. Now, shall we vacate this bobbing boat and prepare for what comes next on this ridiculous journey through history? Chapter 12. Nestor's Not-So-Humble Throne. Hey guys, welcome back. Tonight we're diving into history so peculiar it makes a three-legged dog look graceful. Yes, we're about to explore the world of Nestor, a wise Greek commander with a knack for navigating fame without bragging about it. Talk about impressive. Now, indulge me for a moment. Have you ever found yourself trying to avoid attention at a party, only to trip over your own feet while attempting to casually sip your drink? Or perhaps you've tried to give out advice on life, only to realize you have no clue what you're talking about. Kind of like that friend who's read one self-help book and thinks they're now the next Oprah. One can't help but wonder how Nestor managed to maintain his reputation as the ultimate wise old sage while sitting on a throne in Pylos that likely felt less majestic and more like a garden chair from a yard sale. Imagine having to answer endless questions while secretly hoping your back would hold up long enough for the day's ramblings to end. The era he lived in wasn't the most comfortable, especially when the gods might decide to throw a tantrum over a picnic. So let's keep the ego in check, shall we? So, as you settle in, dim the lights, put on a fan, and cozy up in your favorite blanket, Let's rewind to about 1250 BCE. Congratulations! You've just woken up in a world where the sun thinks it's the center of the universe, and everyone is sporting hairstyles that would make a modern hairdresser weep. Picture this. Brilliant murals decorate the walls of Nestor's home, mostly depicting epic battles, triumphant returns, and probably his least favorite of all, the questionable fashion choices of the local peasantry. For Nestor, who'd seen more battles than he'd had hot meals, today would be just another day fending off the attention of overly enthusiastic admirers. Don't you just love it when people treat you like a celebrity for no good reason? Nestor certainly could have done without the extra stress of inflated praise filling his ears. Now, while you sit snugly on your couch, imagine the cracked stone floors beneath Nestor's throne, which was probably colder than a polar bear's toenails. Not exactly the plush carpets of a modern-day royal. And let's not forget about the delightful aromas wafting through the palace. Think less enchanting incense and more aroma of three-day-old fish. A lovely backdrop for any philosophical musings, don't you think? Amidst his prayers, Nestor often looked up, terrified of accidentally invoking the wrath of gods prone to swaying from friendly to furious faster than you can say, sacrificial goat. "Please, dear gods," he'd mutter, "just give me a break. I've already made it through the Trojan War intact. Can't a guy enjoy a quiet evening without a thunderbolt to the face?" Life in ancient Greece wasn't just about dodging divine lightning. It came with its fair share of quirky challenges. For instance, maintaining an air of humility was no easy task in a realm where bragging rights could amount to a speck of dirt on your sandal. Who wouldn't want to flaunt their latest conquests or witticisms, especially when the ancient equivalent of social media could quickly turn you from a humble hero into a historical joke? And what of the assembly of wise men that surrounded him? Picture a gaggle of philosophers chopping at the conversational air like chickens pecking at the ground for scraps, each vying for the title of most philosophical. How did Nestor manage to find his zen amidst the intellectual chaos? Imagine trying to meditate while surrounded by guys who believe deeply that philosophical debates should end in a wrestling match. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting golden hues across the ancient world, Nestor contemplated his life not as a series of glorious battles, but rather as a series of mismatched socks. Nothing really fits, but it all somehow works out. Ever think about how strange our lives can be? Such was the mindset of our wise commander as he shifted his weight on his throne, adjusting himself like an old grandfather just settling into the armchair for an afternoon nap. The truth is, while history often focuses on tales of epic heroes, it's the quiet, absurd moments that truly shape our lives. Nestor's throne wasn't just about authority. It was about managing the chaotic symphony of voices demanding his keen insight on everything from love advice to ancient recipes involving beans. No pressure there. What's a guy to do when his fan club expects him to be a fountain of wisdom while he's just trying to enjoy a slice of bread? And as he reflected on these thoughts, a slow grin crept onto Nestor's face. "You know what?" he chuckled softly. "Maybe it's better to remain humble. After all, I'd prefer a cozy throne over a rock-hard pedestal any day." With that, he returned to his meditations, contemplating why no one ever seemed to ask how he felt about washing his beard. And so, dear dreamers, as we wrap up our whimsical exploration of Nestor's throne of comedic chaos, take solace in the idea that while his path may have led through battles and divine misadventures, even wise Greeks longed for simple moments that brought laughter. A little slice of nostalgia in a world brimming with quirkiness and irony. Just remember, whether you're resting on a luxurious bed or pretending your couch is a makeshift throne, life's absurdities are what make the ride all the more entertaining. Sweet dreams. Chapter 13. Agamemnon's Unforgettable Welcome. Hey guys, welcome back. Tonight, we tread through history more eventful than a reality show about your neighbor's cat. Yes, we're diving into the tale of Agamemnon, the king of Mycenae, a man whose welcoming home party had all the warmth of a penguin huddle in Antarctica. So grab your favorite blanket, because before this night is over, you'll find that the only thing darker than the stormy seas of ancient Greece is the impending doom of our dear king. But first, let's take a moment to ask the real questions of life, shall we? For instance, have you ever stepped into your home and immediately wished you had just stayed in the car? Or how about that moment when you realize, in all your noble grandeur, that you left your phone charging at work? Now imagine being Agamemnon, striding confidently onto the shores of Mycenae, wearing his most radiant robes, completely unaware that he's walking straight into a tragic sitcom, complete with treachery, betrayal, and possibly a cursed family heirloom. Picture this. You've just come back from an epic journey that involved more sword play than you could shake a spear at. Your loyal subjects line the shores to greet you. They're clapping, chanting your name, and all you can think is, did I forget the milk? Oddly specific thoughts like these flood the mind during significant moments. Maybe you're pondering what you'll wear to the post-war banquet, or if someone accidentally sat on your freshly baked bread. As Agamemnon approaches with his golden crown gleaming like a disco ball at a medieval dance-off, the atmosphere feels thick with something ominous, perhaps succulent treachery. Imagine strutting in only to find out your dinner is being thrown not at your honor, but at your head. Sound familiar? It's like arriving home to a surprise party only to discover everyone secretly hates your favorite snack. Now, let's set the scene with some vivid imagery. The ocean waves crash against the shore like a group of overzealous fans at a sporting event, and the salty breeze embraces you like an old friend awkwardly trying to hug too tight. The palace looms behind you, adorned with intricate murals depicting heroic feats, though you'd be hard-pressed to find one of a king who knew he was about to have a particularly bad Tuesday. The smell of grilled lamb wafts through the air, mixed with the rhythmic sounds of local smiths hammering away, music to your royal eardrums. However, little does our noble king know that the winds of fate are howling much louder than those waves. His ambitious wife, Clytemnestra, is biding her time like a cat poised to strike at an unassuming mouse. Imagine her resembling that friend who always convinces you to join a conspiracy theory, all with a smile that says, "Trust me, this will be fun." It's the kind of fun that ends with a twist you didn't quite see coming, like an unexpected guest at the end of a sitcom episode. You wander down the embankment, feeling fabulously regal, your royal robe billowing behind you. What's that you smell? Opportunity? Celebration? Or was it last week's bread that's been pushed too close to the fireplace again? The viewers might be enthralled, but the gods insisted on serving a side of grim irony with the plot twist, stirring the pot from atop Mount Olympus, toying with fates as if they were starlings in a field. Now imagine being Agamemnon, hearing the cheers from every corner, yet feeling that strange itch at the back of your head, like you've forgotten something crucial, like a shelf full of unpaid tavern bills. Somehow, you just know that someone is about to put you through the emotional ringer. Most people dread their in-laws visiting. Agamemnon's in for a far worse fate. He's got familial drama on a divine scale. As he steps onto the sandy beach, Agamemnon finds himself yearning to put the fun back in dysfunctional. But nothing seems more fun than betrayal from someone you thought had your back. You know, like when your buddy recommends a movie, and you're excited until you realize it's not just boring. It's a linguistic epic that shouldn't have been made for human eyes. The sound of joyous laughter echoes in the air, unaware that a dark cloud looms above, waiting to drop its heavy load. Oh, it's going to rain intrigue. No ponchos available. Just as Agamemnon is all set to embrace his homecoming like he's won the Super Bowl, he unwittingly steps straight into the setup of a Greek tragedy worth its weight in sandalware. And so, to sum it all up, dear dreamers,
Agamemnon's ill-timed homecoming reminds us that royalty comes with its share of complications. In moments of great triumph, there's often a shadow lurking, ready to pounce like an overzealous game of dodgeball turned deadly. So, as Agamemnon struts forth, still blissfully unaware, take comfort in the fact that life's unpredictability can be as absurd as a cat working as a life coach. As you settle deeper into your blankets, just remember that every narrative has unexpected twists. Sometimes they're joyous, and sometimes they'll leave you asking, why did I eat that last piece of cake? Embrace the irony, dear dreamers, because tomorrow is another day for historical hilarity. Sweet dreams.
Chapter 14. Blood in the Bath. As we slip beneath the weighty blankets of history, let's talk about a little thing called betrayal. Specifically, one that comes with a side of gruesome irony in the form of a marble bath. Picture yourself in ancient Mycenae, a time when hot water was a luxury, a serious commitment often reserved for major events like royal celebrations or those special moments when you accidentally, like perhaps, say, a betrayal, decided to bubble to the surface. Imagine walking into a room that's supposed to reek of relaxation, but instead reeks of something that could easily be mistaken for last week's unfortunate sheep stew. The air is thick, not just with the scent of lukewarm water, but also with an uneasy tension, a delightful concoction of punishment, pleasure, and perhaps just a smidge of excessive drama. Here, lounging quite regally, we find the infamous Clytemnestra, Agamemnon's wife, taking her time in a luxurious, albeit sinister, stone bath, adorned with flecks of gold that probably cost a small fortune. But hey, nothing sets the mood for a high-stakes assassination quite like a lavish spa day, right? As Clytemnestra and her lover, that charmingly named scallywag Aegisthus, stand over Agamemnon's body, picture them cackling with glee, like two kids up to no good at a candy store. Except this isn't your average mischief. No, good friends, this is, I just stabbed the king, and now I'm really regretting wearing white level of chaos. They gaze down at the lifeless form of Agamemnon sprawled in the bath, water glistening with evidence of what once was. A king reduced to a mere footnote, marinated in treachery as if it were an artisanal sauce. What must this scene smell like? Oh, delightful. A heady cocktail of blood and regret, with a hint of sandalwood-scented oils, all of it bubbling together like the worst combination of ingredients one could imagine. It's an olfactory riddle. Is that a ghost of lavender I detect, or just the lingering aroma of betrayal simmering to a cultural boil? As you stand there, it dawns on you that nothing says forgiveness quite like, oops, I may have just ended your entire dynasty. One can almost hear the ancient versions of the reality TV show producers whispering in the background. And for our next episode, betrayal at its finest. But let's pause and reflect for a moment. How would this whole dramatic tableau translate into today's parlance? Imagine, if you will, that Clytemnestra had texted her best friend right after the deed, OMG, just finished House of the Dead King bubble bath, and let's just say, not as relaxing as expected. We'll be attending some unwelcome family reunions from here on out. As you linger in this chilling moment, consider the irony. Here lies a king who has faced the formidable forces of Troy, yet he is ultimately brought low by a bathroom dispute, a verbal spat over who left the toilet seat up, Perhaps who forgot to replace the loofah. And so here's the kicker. Clytemnestra, while undoubtedly adept with a dagger, was perhaps just a tad bit too casual about her methods. Murder is one thing. Cleaning up afterwards? That's a whole different ballgame. Let's explore how history usually glorifies kings and heroes, a facade often marred by the bloody truths lying just beneath the surface. If Agamemnon had a decent strategy consultant, they would have said, avoid returning home like a conquering hero straight into a bathtub of doom situation. Common sense. It's a thing. But alas, Agamemnon, crowned in glory,
was not prepared for the chilling reception waiting for him. His return was like that moment when you mistakenly opened the door to a birthday party you weren't invited to. A total shocker, complete with balloons and cake but lacking all the joy. Instead, it's a surprise buffet of anger and betrayal, served up with a side of, "What were you thinking?" So as the theatrical scene unfolds with a bath filled with increasingly ominous themes, you'd think the gods watching from Olympus were shaking their heads, sipping ambrosia, as they wondered why humans insist on making the most absurd choices. It's like the universal law of "don't play with sharp objects," applied to both divine beings and mortals alike. And here's the final twist. As Clytemnestra and Aegisthus revel in their grand act, do they really ever see the full weight of their actions? Or will history carry just a fleeting memory of their escapade? A moment frozen in time like an unflattering photo in the family album, where the ghostly visage of Agamemnon will forever haunt their post-bath gossip hour. So, dear dreamers, in the midst of this macabre bath scene, take a moment to chuckle at the unpredictable nature of life. One moment you're toasting to glory, and the next, you're caught up in a plot thicker than the blood in the tub. Such is the way of history, and perhaps it's just the right amount of absurdity to put a smile on your face as you drift off to sleep tonight, imagining the grand theater of ancient Greece and the characters who filled it with their rather unfortunate choices and exaggeratedly luxurious baths.
Chapter 15. Hubris and the Cliffside Rant. Hey guys, grab your cozy blankets and maybe a warm glass of milk, because tonight we dive into something more absurd than that time your uncle thought he could still dunk a basketball at the family reunion. The tale of hubris in ancient Greece. The kind of hubris that has people shouting emphatically at storm clouds as if they were merely rude dinner guests. If you've ever had a moment where you believed you were the main character in a romantic comedy, despite the fact that you often trip over your own feet, well, congrats. You're well on your way to understanding the Greek concept of hubris. It's like believing you can walk a tightrope made of spaghetti while juggling flaming torches. Spoiler alert, it rarely ends well. Now, take a moment to ponder these delightful questions. What would be the carbon footprint of tossing a spear at the gods? How many selfies would Achilles take with his trophy? And did they really have a make-your-own-fate booth at the local oracle? Friends, if you're not scratching your head and laughing a little, let's just say you might want to check your pulse. And just when you thought we couldn't get wackier, congratulations! You've just woken up in 1250 BCE, the same year you stylishly rock a toga while standing on a cliff, yelling at the heavens as if inviting Zeus to a game of charades. Spoiler alert, he's not a fan of your enthusiasm. Picture this. You're at the edge of a craggy cliff, your hair whipping around like a confused chicken in a windstorm. Dark clouds loom over you, heavy with an ominous energy, as if the universe itself is contemplating a severe weather warning. But you stand tall. You shout into the brewing storm with all the confidence of someone who just discovered a new appetite for gluten-free ancient grains. "Hey, Zeus," you bellow, arms thrown wide as if preparing for an enthusiastic embrace with impending doom. "I totally deserve this victory. Did you see that last lightning bolt? Pretty sure the lightning was just my youthful exuberance." In this moment, swirling storms and all, it's essential to ask, what about your life could involve a shout-off with the sky? Is it the laundry piling up like Trojan shields? Or perhaps the retirement plan that looks like it was sketched by a drunken goat? Whatever it is, you can bet that the gods are laughing harder at your ambitions than they ever did at the gods of Olympus themselves. The clouds rumble approvingly, or perhaps that's just your imagination. You see, hubris is the exciting yet slippery slope of feeling like a rock star when you're really just tuning your lute poorly during a family sing-along. One moment, you're sealing your reputation as a legendary warrior, like Hercules after a marathon makeup session. And the next, an unexpected bolt of divine lightning could cozy up right next to you, not in a friendly way, but in a "You really should have thought that through" sort of manner.
Let's not forget our old friends, the Trojans, who must be watching your display with a collective squint, wondering if you truly think shouting at the gods will earn you extra points on the leaderboard of history. This fellow on the cliff, does he think the storm will carry him to immortality? They mumble amongst themselves through a mouthful of olives. But you're not concerned. Nope. You plunge ahead, throwing out one-liners that'd make today's stand-up comics green with envy. Yo, Zeus, nice clouds. Did you order them in an extra dramatic size? Maybe with a side of atmospheric chaos? It's all good fun until you hear the faint rolling of thunder just behind your shoulder. As the first drops of rain begin to fall, each plop feels like a nudge from reality, a little reminder that maybe Mother Nature does not appreciate unsolicited attention. Oh, but it's too late. You're deep in the zone of self-importance, like an Instagram influencer emerging from a beauty salon ready to conquer the world with polished selfies. You do your best to channel your inner Achilles. Why not? The world is a chaotic stage, and you are simply the overdramatic star. Yet deep down, as the clouds thicken and the air crackles with an unsettling energy, you can't help but think, why do you always have to be the star? There's something gloriously absurd about your situation. Here you are, barking at the sky like a modern-day parrot, but with none of the self-awareness of your trusty pal, Timmy the cat. You could be home watching reruns of The Golden Girls, but instead, you're lecturing Olympus with badly delivered punchlines about your fitness journey. I'll get shredded before noon, being a personal favorite. In conclusion, dear listeners, as you stand on the cusp of this epic showdown with the cosmos, remind yourself that the real heroes of history are those who stumble, fumble, and perhaps get a little zapped along the way, but always do it with flair. Your bravery, no matter how misguided, can never be eclipsed by the fury of the skies. Hubris, my dear friends, is just the universe's way of telling you to lighten up. And so, as you lay your head on your pillow, perhaps envision yourself next time as a less flamboyant action hero, one who knows when to shout and when to quietly reflect on the beauty of not taking on the wrath of indignant gods. No need to summon thunderstorms. There are far more serene ways to say goodnight.
Chapter 16. The Tempest and the Tidal Wave of Regret. Hey guys, buckle up. Tonight we find ourselves in the realm of ancient seafaring Greeks, where the winds are as fickle as your last online date, and storms brew like gossip over an anxious coffee table. As you nestle into your cozy corners, maybe with a warm drink, because why not indulge in something delightful before the chaos starts, let's prepare ourselves for a tale unlike any tornado your neighbors generate after too much bean dip. Now, you may wonder, what was ancient Greek weather reporting like? Did they have dedicated meteorologists forecasting thunder and fury? Or was it more of a let's wait and see approach, watching storm clouds pop up like uninvited party guests? And speaking of storms, what happens when your boat decides to tango with a rogue wave? Spoiler alert, it's not pretty, and the next morning's breakfast might come courtesy of the ocean. Imagine living in a world where the gods had a penchant for mood swings, and lightning bolts were the equivalent of modern-day, "You've got mail." So, dear dreamers, congratulations. You've just woken up in 1250 BCE, smack dab in the midst of a tempestuous adventure on the Aegean Sea, where every ship is just one ill-fated wave away from becoming an unintentional fish sanctuary. Now, picture this. The sky is darker than your favorite coffee on a Monday morning, and the winds are howling with the ferocity of a toddler whose ice cream just fell. You, yes you, are standing on the deck of a Greek warship, a splendidly constructed piece that probably wasn't sufficiently tested in light of the impending doom. You look around, and the other sailors are either praying fervently to Poseidon or launching into impromptu sea shanties that sound more alarmed than comforting. Suddenly, a colossal wave looms over the ship, looking suspiciously like it's challenging you to a very wet duel. The sea churns with such intensity, you'd think it had just downed a triple espresso. Your heart skips a beat, and your stomach finds itself either dancing with excitement or plotting its escape. It's hard to tell. You take a deep breath, reminding yourself that you were born for this, and a few too many misadventures on dry land have prepared you in some way for this epic moment of soaked regret. As the first drops of rain start to pelt the deck, let's just say they aren't gentle, like a grandmother's loving pat on the cheek. No, these feel more like a stampede of tiny, angry oxen, each one yelling, "Dear sailor, what are you thinking?" The flavor of salt water fills your mouth as you wonder why you thought it was a good idea to leave the comforts of solid ground behind. Let's talk about your ship's design, because honestly, it's not the sturdy fortress you might have hoped for. Instead, it's a wooden beast with timbers clinging together as tightly as a bad string quartet. Remember the last time you heard noises from your attic that were a bit unsettling? Picture that, but louder, and featuring the thunderous orchestra of impending doom. You can practically hear your ship creaking under the weight of every bad decision made, like ordering 2 pizzas at 2 a.m. and wondering how it came to this. And oh, the sea. It's sloshing about like a rambunctious dog who just spotted a squirrel, a swirl of frothy blue madness that makes you reconsider every single life choice leading you here. The smell of briny water fills your nostrils. It's like a reminder of every seafood dish you may or may not have enjoyed, now foreshadowing your potential beachside demise. Did you ever think you'd be evaluating your life while bobbing along like a cork? The lightning strikes, illuminating the scene and briefly transforming your world into a dramatic theater play, with you as the hapless lead. You glare up, attempting to give Zeus a disapproving look, but who are we kidding? All you can do is contemplate the sheer absurdity of it all, like someone who's accidentally shown up to the black tie event in a Hawaiian shirt. "Hey Zeus!" you scream over the wind, offering your best eye roll. "Could you not? I came to conquer, not to swim with the fishes." Meanwhile, the heavens reply with a loud crack, sending another bolt zinging down. Maybe you'd think twice next time before arguing with the divine, huh? And as your ship lurches violently, mildly resembling a drunken octopus, a hot fountain of panic slides down your spine. Suddenly, you're thrown into an unexpected philosophy lesson. Fate, chance, all that jazz. It's all fun and games until a wave decides you're better served as fish food. Suddenly, the realization hits you. It's dangerous out here. You giggle nervously, reflecting on how little you knew about surviving a storm at sea. When was the last time you checked your Surviving Nature manual? Or, Googled anything beyond your 9 p.m. Netflix binge? But wait, you're not just going to go out. Oh no. You lean into it, channeling your inner hero, or villain, depending on the perspective. You are ready to embrace this uninvited dance with nature, with all the grace of a drunken sea lion. As old Achilles would surely laugh, perhaps they should have offered a little lightning bolt insurance. So, as this maritime madness persists, and your dreams of warm bread and cozy beds slip further into the abyss of salty chaos, remember that history can be downright hilarious sometimes, even if you're at the mercy of weather more unpredictable than your high school crush. Now, sail on, brave dreamers. The night is young, the waves are wild, and who knows? Maybe the next wave will carry you straight to that comfort food platter you've always desired. Until then, just smile and keep floating through the storm. Chapter 17. The Bearded Reflection at Twilight. Hey guys, welcome back to our whimsical journey through history. Tonight's episode is more tangled than your last pair of earphones, and just as entertainingly frustrating. Picture this. We're stepping into the vivid world of ancient Troy around 1250 BCE, where the warriors are less Hercules and more, I hope I can still feed my chickens right after this battle. So, before we tumble down the rabbit hole of epic tales that don't end quite the way you'd wish, why don't you dim the lights, grab a warm drink, and settle in? Maybe even turn on a fan for some dramatic flair. You know, just to stay cool while we heat things up in ancient Troy. Now, start pondering some truly ludicrous questions as we prepare to traverse time. What would a Trojan warrior do if he walked into a modern coffee shop? Would he ask for a double tall latte, or would that be blasphemous? If a Greek hero attended a therapy session, would the therapist simply nod and say, "Tell me about your mother"? And let's be honest, how many talking goats does it take to convince you that your life choices might need a recalibration? With those profound thoughts swirling in your head, congratulations! You've just woken up in the clutter of 1250 BCE, standing outside a weathered stone house in Troy. The sun is lazily dipping below the horizon, casting long shadows that look suspiciously like Medusa's hair on a bad day. Occasionally, a stray goat bleats in the distance. Either it's lost or has opinions about the terrible fashion choices of the local warriors. And here you are, caught in the recollections of a tired, bearded veteran warrior. Someone who, despite being an epic hero in battle, suddenly feels like the world's most misplaced puppy. Outside your modest abode, you glance through the window and see a strikingly lovely couple. Young, vibrant, and blissfully ignorant of the impending doom that your past extravagances and a certain wooden horse might bring upon them. The air is thick with the smell of freshly baked bread mixed with that hint of olive oil, an aroma that soothes your soul like a warm hug, if only you'd showered more regularly. With each glance at this young pair, you can't help but wonder, what's their secret? Are they plotting world domination? Or worse, forming a fitness cult? You chuckle silently, your beard shaking with mild mirth, because fighting the Trojans may have sounded heroic at one point, but watching these kids is a reminder of your own faded glory. As twilight deepens, the landscape shifts from vibrant yellows to cool blues, and the chatter within your mind starts to spiral out into absurd daydreams. Did you ever think you'd be standing here, staring into the lives of those who could date without the weight of battle plans hanging over them? What's the deal with these youth and their effortless charm? Oh, how nice it must be to have evenings free of strategizing or wondering if your helmet can double as a salad bowl. Outside, you shift on your feet, feeling like a historical relic, like those pots they hang in museums next to signs that make it sound way cooler than it actually is. Ah, yes, the armor of an unknown hero who likely pulled a hamstring during the last battle. Gosh, isn't that relatable? You lean in, channeling your inner philosopher as a careful breeze brushes by, and your beard fluffs up like a slightly disgruntled cat. Let's face it, those fateful love stories etched into the tomes of history, they don't seem nearly as glamorous upon contemplation. The grandeur was just a thin veneer over profound human folly. You can almost hear the distant sound of the ancient poets dramatically reciting your tragic tale of a hero who forgot to leave his emotional baggage at the door. Isn't it ironic that as you squint through the window, you find yourself wishing you'd been the one at the cafe sipping a latte, rather than arm-wrestling fate over a bottomless pit of regret? Back to your musings. As that twinkling couple holds hands in naive adoration, questions abound. Were you once like them? Did you once dare to dream of happily ever after, before your life spiraled into a saga filled with revenge plots and wooden equine mischief? Did you ever dare to ask a lovely lady out, only to realize you were wearing mismatched sandals because you were in too much of a hurry to get to battle? Yes, even heroes face the everyday dilemmas that echo down the centuries. And just as you're caught in that whirlpool of nostalgia, the universe takes a laugh. Because unbeknownst to you, that splendid couple is indeed on the verge of history, living moments that will be romanticized and turned into tragic poetry. And here you are, looking like an old pizza box trying to figure out why the delivery guy hasn't shown up. Embrace the absurdity of it all. Whether you're a mighty warrior, a confused goat herder, or a curious couple on a romantic evening, the tapestry of life is woven with all sorts of uninvited quirks and odd colors.
And in those quiet moments of reflection, remember, life can be beautifully hilarious, especially when you spill your drink on your battle armor instead of the actual table at a festive gathering. As you stand lingering at twilight on the edges of these bustling lives, you chuckle softly, keenly aware that the saga of the heroes of Troy might be a tragic epic, but it's also a pipeline of comic relief, where the humor of human nature shines through. And who'd want to miss out on that?
Chapter 18, The Palace of Faded Glory. Hey guys, welcome back to our delightful escapade through time. Tonight's episode is about as refreshing as an unannounced fire drill during your afternoon nap. Picture this. You're soaring over a magnificent Mycenaean palace, witnessing all of its ornate columns, glittering treasures, and hints of a chaotic collapse. Now, before we embark on this roller coaster of absurdity, why don't you dim the lights, find your most comfy spot, and maybe even wrap yourself in a blanket, if you have one that doesn't smell like it just survived a goat fashion show. If you feel inclined, perhaps a fan for that dramatic wind effect would enhance the ambience, taking you straight to ancient Greece, or at least giving you a nice breeze while we torpedo through some ridiculous history. But before we dive headfirst into tales of heroic misfires and flaming grandeur, let's take a little detour through the quirkiness of human nature at this particular time. Have you ever wondered how Mycenaean royalty would handle Netflix and chill? Would they binge-watch epic battles and accidentally spoil the ending for their friends? Or imagine throwing a wedding in 1250 BCE. Let's have a grand feast. The decor? Well, last time it worked out great to have an actual horse as a centerpiece. And God forbid the DJ doesn't play Achilles' favorite ballad. Congratulations, you've just woken up in 1250 BCE, standing atop that stunning palace balcony. Your feet skim the warm, weathered stones beneath you, while golden rays of sunlight cascade down like that one celebrity you can't believe exists, too bright and too glorious. But not too far below you lies the evidence of chaos, broken columns, remnants of marvelous treasures dashed against the ground like they just had a very bad day. And let's not forget the faint scent of burnt ambitions wafting through the air. As you lean over the railing, your eyes feast on the landscape of destruction, like a toddler threw their building blocks everywhere but with a higher budget and more dramatic consequences. Imagine being the architect. Oh, just a small oversight, really. Didn't foresee those siege engines crashing through my magnificent entrance. You can almost hear the echoes of a disgruntled craftsman groaning behind you. Great, another day, another palace in ruins. Just my luck. Take a moment to let the absurdity wash over you. Can you picture the reaction of the palace residents when disaster struck? Hey, is that smoke? Oh dear, Bob from accounting forgot to extinguish his torch during the evening feast. There's a palpable irony in a palace that housed the bravest heroes crumbling to chaos over a careless flick of flame. It's like a superhero movie gone terribly wrong. You expect, even demand, heroic outcomes, only to be met with someone spilling grape juice all over the battle plans. The air thickens with memories, sounds of armor clanking, merchants bartering for food, and predictable chatter over which wind-swept hillside offers the best sunset views. And as you admire your surroundings, you also get little hints of a very different timeline. Once glorious hallways filled with the unmistakable odor of fear and regret, as if everyone collectively forgot to deodorize their giant romances. And wouldn't you know it, old Agamemnon and the boys probably tossed a few wild parties here. Can you imagine being the poor intern tasked with replacing the columns after one too many failed attempts at honoring the gods with cauldrons of wine? Sir, how many pillars do you need again? I just finished replacing the last one. How about we try celebrating with fruit juice for a change? As you meander through the wreckage, the reality sinks in. The lavish feasts, the extravagant clothing, the aura of untouchable grandeur, it was all a facade. Underneath it all lay a chaotic medley of desires, failures,
and sheer bad luck. A bit like social media today, really, yearning to showcase flawless vacations, but in reality, packed with awkward selfies and airport mishaps. Upon closer examination of the remnants, it dawns on you. These ancient folks had cover stories, much like us. Sure, it may look like our lives are tumbling down in chaos, but did you see our latest victory in battle? Look at these creatively arranged ash piles from the last banquet. And just like your neighbor's surge to status in the latest book club, the palace was the epitome of social grandeur, hiding the inevitable truth beneath. In this chaos, humor reigns supreme, a reminder that no matter how grand the ambitions, there will always be an element of messy humanity. Heroes can fall, palaces can be extinguished, and in the end, it's all just a wonderfully absurd chapter in the unexpected tale of human existence. So the next time you look at your own castle, or apartment, and wonder why the Wi-Fi is acting up, glance out your window and remind yourself that even the grandest of palaces went up in flames once upon a time. And remember, whether you're exploring the collapsed ruins of a Mycenaean empire or your own rough day, humor is the most reliable defense against the chaotic carousel of life. We're all just trying to keep our pillars straight, one laugh at a time.
Chapter 19, A Fashion Statement of Disaster. Hey guys, welcome back to another whimsical journey through history. Think of it as a time machine that occasionally breaks down in the middle of nowhere, leaving you to fend for yourself with nothing but a faded map and a disapproving seagull. Tonight, we find ourselves knee-deep in the dramatic tales of ancient heroes, particularly a guy named Odysseus, who, spoiler alert, never really made it back home after his epic journey. Now, let me ask you, have you ever shown up to a party in last year's fashion, only to find everyone else dressed like runway models? Or have you ever mistakenly borrowed your neighbor's pet llama, thinking it was just a fluffy decoration? Such is the unfortunate nature of fashion crises that transcend time. But wait, before you go down that rabbit hole, let's invite the cosmos to dim the lights, crank up that fan for some dramatic ambience, and make sure you're snuggled up like a burrito against life's uncertainties. Imagine if you woke up as a hero of ancient Greece. You might wonder, how on earth did I end up here, surrounded by flying projectiles, while panting like I just chased a deer across a battlefield? Or perhaps you ponder what kind of skincare routine prevents all that sun damage while sailing on endless adventures. Bonus point, would your battle axe shine as brightly as your complexion post-olive oil application? Congratulations, you've just woken up on a sun-kissed sandy beach in 1250 BCE, feeling sandy where surprises should not be anticipated, exposed for all to see. And yet, you find yourself kneeling before none other than the Phaeacian princess Nausicaa. Optional, make sure you look appealing, because apparently being shipwrecked means raiding the world's worst costume closet, and you're currently wrapped in a tattered piece of cloth that would make even the most fashionable goat cringe. You eye Nausicaa, who stands before you, radiating innocence, kindness, and an impressive amount of clean garments. Her expression is a cocktail of curiosity and concern, probably wondering if the universe has some kind of vendetta against decency and fashion. Here, take this, she beams, handing you what could only be described as the ancient equivalent of a classy, comfortable sweatsuit, minus the comfort guaranteed by elastic waistbands. The fabric she bestows upon you is woven from the finest threads that surely cost more than most small kingdoms. You can just hear the gossiping aristocrats whispering, "Did you hear? Odysseus came ashore in a gossamer gown of shame." As you clothe yourself in this miraculous garment, there's a brief moment of panic where you wonder if you've returned to a fashion show. Is my left arm supposed to go in the hole or the other way around? Don't worry, you managed to pull it together, and just in time too, because Nausicaa's smile hasn't dimmed. You can practically see her. Thoughts on the color palette? Oh look, he's gone from seaweed chic to somewhat presentable. Now that you're dressed, Nausicaa doesn't just stop at style recommendations. She's also packed you provisions. "I brought some bread and an exquisite assortment of fruits," she chirps, as if plucking them straight from a mythical grocery store. You eye what looks suspiciously like a mix between grapes and something potentially magical. Maybe the first ever fruit salad? Or perhaps a tribute to culinary invention gone awry? However, just when you think you can bask in the glory of fresh food choices among the debris of your shipwrecked life, the reality curves back like a misaligned ladle in a soup kitchen. "So, what brings you to our end of the beach?" she asks, the wind tousling her hair like a poetic breeze straight out of a bard's questionable ballad. And you ponder, what is the best way to explain that you just lost your ship to storms and gods? Maybe a piece of humble pie drizzled with a side of, "Wasn't my fault, blame the Trojan horse," might do the trick. But let's face it, surrendering to the absurdity of it all is the best tactic for winning an unconsented audience. Adventurous sailing, dear princess. I'm somewhat of a legendary figure due to a tiny misunderstanding involving a war over some golden apple. She squints, probably trying to gauge whether your tales of conflict and chaos resonate with her peaceful existence. This moment, this connection, is more golden than the apple itself. You can practically hear the fates groaning in unison. Why can't this poor man catch a break? Can't he at least have a fun backstory? The sun glimmers down, warming you as you sit there munching on ancient snackables, overflowing with already sticky juices, and contemplating the pure ridiculousness of this unexpected rendezvous. Meanwhile, you can detect flecks of possibility dancing in the salty breeze. Because who knows? Perhaps today is a new chapter in your never-ending saga, or just another unfortunate act in the comedy of errors known as your life. Let's hope it doesn't end with you sliding back into the mysterious depths of the ocean without a single fashionable garment in sight. And so it goes, dear listener, in this unpredictable tale of can't-catch-a-break history. You, a hero with questionable luck and funky fashion sense, are right at home amidst the brilliant chaos. Embrace the absurdity, dear dreamer, and let the waves of humor wash over you like the warm sun on that glorious, misguided beach.
Chapter 20. The Olive Bed Test. Hey guys, welcome back to another night of mildly interesting history, where the tales are richer than your Aunt Mabel's fruitcake and twice as questionable. Tonight, we dive into the cozy yet convoluted world of ancient Greece, where love, deception, and the occasional bed of an olive tree come together in a whirlwind of emotions and questionable judgment. Now, let's be real for a second. Have you ever played a game of Guess Who with your partner, only to find out they were using a secret identity from their childhood? Or perhaps you've taken part in a game of charades so embarrassing that even the cat left the room. Just imagine how much more complicated that would be if you had to test a stranger's backstory while they were dressed like a poorly assembled scarecrow. But before we go down that rabbit hole, if you find yourself tossing and turning tonight, feel free to blame the gods. Grab your cup of herbal tea, dim the lights, but not so much that you end up walking into a table, and cozy up like a burrito wrapped in your mother's quilted comfort. Picture this. You've just awakened in 1250 BCE, nestled in a house where even the walls have been through some domestic drama. You're in Ithaca, and the air smells faintly of brine, intrigue, and the faint whiff of an unresolved family feud. Can you feel the tension? Picture Penelope, with the patience of a saint and the circumspect wisdom of a seasoned diplomat, perching next to a bed carved from the very trunk of an olive tree. A tree so noble, it could probably give the neighborhood's oldest great-grandparent a run for their money. With a furrowed brow, Penelope leans closer, her heart racing like a deer at the first hint of danger. You know what they say, trust but verify. And she's about to put this scraggly beggar who claims to be her long-lost husband to the ultimate test. Immediately you wonder, what kind of secret could possibly exist in such a leafy legend? Would it involve a hair-raising game of hide-and-seek among the fig bushes? Or perhaps a culinary challenge, where only the best eggplant dip proves worthy?
Then there's this bag of old tricks we call Odysseus, who stands there sporting a look that screams, "I just hiked across a mountain range barefoot, and my laundry schedule was abandoned at the harbor." Can you imagine how bad that would smell? Even the goats in the background are side-eyeing him with judgment. Sure, he's got the rugged warrior vibe down to a fine art, but can he produce a valid ID? Quite the dilemma, especially during a time when New Age identity theft meant changing your whole backstory. As Penelope quizzes him, "Tell me, O mysterious wanderer, how do you recognize our bed?" And here we find ourselves at the intersection of nostalgia and panic. The mattress, my friends, is not the comfy plush cloud we dream of today, but rather resembling a rustic wooden platform topped with a few well-placed sheepskin rugs. It's about as cozy as sleeping under a barn's roof next to a chicken with questionable hygiene. Imagine this hilarious scene. Odysseus's mind is racing. Does he risk sounding ridiculous by describing a secret knot reminiscent of their first passionate encounter? One that may or may not have involved getting tangled up in a sheep? Or maybe he should wax poetic about the olive tree's roots, expressing his heartfelt devotion while inadvertently rambunctiously sounding like a bad Shakespearean actor at a community theater. The stakes are high, my friends, and it's a veritable soap opera unfolding before us. Now, picture it. The sun is casting its golden rays while Penelope lifts her brow, subtly tapping her olive branch staff like a metronome, the air thick with a tension similar to an impending storm. "Tell me the secret," she insists, "or I shall feed you to the goats." Trust me, that's no idle threat in these parts. Everyone knows those goats have a keen sense for troublemakers. It's a comedy show, really, as Odysseus desperately tries to recall the magic code for accessing the olive tree bed that has held within its boughs countless memories, both tender and ridiculous. The clock is ticking. Can you hear the audience's breaths hanging in the air? Does he stumble over his own words? Is he sweating more than a sock left in an unventilated gym bag during summer? Ah, dear listener, nothing shines a brighter light on love and desperation than an impromptu trivia night at the family reunion. Spoiler alert, it's not about the game itself. It's about who remembers the family tree best without losing their cool. While Odysseus tries to crack the olive code, Penelope's heart beats louder than the dramatics of a Greek chorus eager to see their favorite couple reunite. At last, the mood shifts toward warmth. Their peculiar yet devoted dance resumes, restoring balance in the universe. And isn't that just the sweet irony? Even when life hands you a giant bowl of olives instead of a glass of wine, there's humor to be found in the madness. So here we drift in this comedy of history, clashing with the unexpected and waiting for redemption like a thoroughly lost sock in the laundry basket of fate. And thus, dear listeners, we float serenely into a final reflection. Love, much like an olive tree bed, may be tough at times, but holds the sweetest fruit in the end. Chapter 21. The bow, the arrow, and the surprising amount of suitors. Picture this. You've just awoken one fine day in 1250 BCE in Ithaca, a charming little citadel where the air is thick with salty breezes, bragging suitors, and the faint sound of a harp lamenting lost hopes. Congratulations, you've landed smack dab in the chaos of the Ithacan Great Hall, where Odysseus is about to engage in a very lively version of Survivor, Suitor Edition. Let's set the scene, shall we? The Grand Hall is a spectacle of splendor, imposing stone walls adorned with tapestries that are fraying at the edges, perhaps depicting an epic battle, or that time Odysseus tried to cook without burning water. Let's just say he'd never win a Michelin star. You can feel the wooden bench beneath you, as hard and splintery as your childhood memories of sitting through math class. Ah yes, the suitors. You know, the charming group of ruffians desperately vying for Penelope's affections, like they'd all been cast in a Shakespearean comedy where the laughter is somehow drowned out by the sound of Odysseus tuning his bow. They swagger about, brandishing their boasts like potatoes on market day, confidently sure that they can out-wrestle Odysseus, even if medieval peacocking isn't really their strong suit. "I can lift a dead ox," one declares, while another insists, "I can run faster than a scared goat." Not that anyone's impressed. The only thing these suitors are good at is ruining a perfectly good buffet of gazpacho and stale bread. The scene could be likened to a particularly dramatic family Thanksgiving dinner gone wrong. And just when you think it can't get any worse, in strides our hero, Odysseus, still looking like he just came back from a really long hike through the underworld, equipped with a bow that could probably launch an arrow all the way to the neighboring island of Crete. This bow is more than just a weapon. It's a symbol of his rightful place in the hearts of the people, and quite likely, a grudge against the overly confident suitors. And let's not forget, this is a bow that these suitors have attempted to string with all the finesse of a toddler trying to tie their shoelaces for the first time. As Odysseus steps to the center of the hall, the atmosphere shifts. It's palpable, like the moment right before someone delivers a punchline at a stand-up comedy show. The suitors gather, voices heightening in panic and excitement. "Will he? Won't he?" they murmur, casting one another uneasy glances, very aware that their fates may just ride on a taut string of that bow, much like their dignity. Now, dear listener, you might be wondering how being shot at with arrows compares to today's modern romantic conundrums. Imagine you're at a horrible speed dating event, where instead of charming conversation, you've got literal arrows flying past your head, and each suitor being impaled directly into their overconfidence. "Hey, nice quiver you've got there," you might shout as they topple over. What a twist. And then it begins. The bowstring twangs like one of your friend's poorly tuned ukuleles. He releases the first arrow, and it sails effortlessly through the air, finding its target, a particularly pompous suitor who had boasted about slaying his first goat at age 6. The crowd gasps, a sound like 100 startled chickens. The remaining suitors look like deer caught in the headlight of an oncoming chariot. In this lively shootout, Odysseus has the clear advantage. One by one, his arrows punctuate the space like the world's most lethal balloon animals. The suitors fall like autumn leaves, the kind nobody really wants to rake up on a crisp morning. Now comes the best part. Odysseus is not just a warrior, but a master of comedy. As each boastful suitor meets their end, he turns to the remaining ones and quips, "What's the lesson here? Maybe try less heroic and more humble." The crowd bursts into laughter, because what's a massacre without a jovial punchline? He dispatches the last of them like your uncle who can't resist making bad puns at family reunions, each quip landing harder than the arrows. The once grandeurs of Ithaca's Hall has transformed into an archery range, complete with comedic shenanigans and a sprinkle of mythological lore. And just like that, peace returns to Ithaca, albeit via a most unconventional method. Those suitors will never underestimate a long-lost husband with a bow again. You can almost hear the collective sigh of relief, blended with a hint of confusion from the onlookers, who have witnessed a spectacle of violence, but through a lens of laughter and dry humor. So, lay down those burdens, dear friend. Whether you're navigating professional life or the world of dating, sometimes you've just got to take aim and let the arrows fly.
Chapter 22. Ajax and the Armored Drama Queen. Picture this: a massive Greek warrior named Ajax, standing tall like a skyscraper made entirely of muscle and determination, is surrounded by the clamor of battle. The air smells a little like sweat, a little like blood, and a lot like desperation. A delightful bouquet that's rather popular in the late Bronze Age. Ajax is wielding his weapons, looking rather striking despite the fact that he's drenched in blood that seems to have various unidentifiable origins. Was it his? Was it the enemy's? Who can say? Either way, he's like that friend who insists on repurposing everything they find, whether it's a blood-stained tunic or a crumpled-up fast food wrapper. As arrows rain down like bad puns at an unfunny comedy show, Ajax stands resolute over the fallen body of Achilles, who, when he wasn't dodging spears,
might have been found grooming his glorious hair while humming a tune. You can almost hear him asking, "Be honest, do I look good in this armor?" In this moment, Ajax's duty is crystal clear: protect Achilles, and do so while pretending he's not worried about the rusting metal slumping over him like an unwanted relative after too much wine. In this very dramatic tableau, you might wonder what it's like to be a warrior in ancient Greece. Ever tried to battle while simultaneously wondering if you remembered to shut the door to your hut? Or, worse yet, what if my goat escapes? Ajax faced his own existential crises, but for him, it was always punctuated by heavy combat and an inexplicable lack of decent snacks. I mean, really, would it kill someone to invent granola bars already? You could sell them at the gates of Troy as warrior fuel. The clever marketing would be worth points, if only the Greeks had their act together. Let's take a moment to immerse ourselves in this battlefield. For Ajax, the ground is less a well-trodden path and more a minefield of discarded helmets and the unfortunate remains of those who boldly claimed they could take him on. Imagine dodging arrows while trying not to step in gooey patches that could only be the aftermath of a very unfortunate pig roast. The smell must have been delightful, like a terrible camping trip gone terribly wrong, with the added bonus of historical significance. Now, imagine standing in Ajax's sandals. We'll disregard the blisters for now. It's not just about strength. It's about the psychology of protecting a hero whose fate seems tied to a secret game of guess who will be next to die. Ajax's motivations must have fluctuated between loyalty and the burning desire to shake Achilles and yell, "For the love of the gods, stop being so melodramatic." Because what everyone seems to forget is that heroes often come with emotional baggage the size of a chariot. One could argue Ajax's real heroic feat was keeping his cool while preparing to message his therapy group once the war was over. All
while wearing armor that had a fabulous but completely impractical design. Did it scream fashion icon for grizzled warriors? Absolutely. Did it serve any real purpose against arrows? Not unless the enemy was attacking with an overwhelm of shaming comments and judgmental glares. And the insults flying in battle were quite rich. Let's cut to it. As Ajax fended off the incoming arrows like he was in some tragic version of Dodgeball Ancient Edition, the Trojans might have shouted something like, "Ajax, why don't you wear a sign that says 'Hit me,' just to make things easier?" Good old ancient smack talk, when your punchlines had as much impact as your swords. If only there had been an ancient version of social media, Ajax would have been a trending topic with hashtags like, "Why won't he just stay down?" or "Broody but brogue." With each block, each deflected arrow, Ajax was merely one small step away from becoming a meme. Imagine it. Ajax versus the arrow memes all over Instagram. But alas, in this unfiltered historical epic, there were no cameras, only the sound of wood splintering and heroic grunts, echoed by the laughter of the gods overhead, likely snickering at their very human foibles. As he fought, he kept a watchful eye on Achilles, the ultimate drama queen. "Stay down! I'm trying to create a heroic moment here," Ajax might have muttered under his breath. And there it is, the timeless bond between big, burly warriors and their impossibly blessed friends who just can't catch a break. Or, in Achilles' case, a proper haircut. So, as arrows flew and Ajax stood in the line of fire, you could argue that history wasn't just about battles and victories, but relationships and the ironic flaws of heroes. One can only hope that Ajax, when reminiscing about the day, wouldn't just tell the story of gallant heroism, but also how he almost choked on a piece of especially decrepit bread during a pause in battle. Who knew that even in ancient Greece, hunger was a common enemy? In the grand symphony of war, some threads are made of grit and blood, while others are spun with laughter and camaraderie. You can picture Ajax with Achilles tearing up at the irony of their circumstances. Two larger-than-life warriors embroiled in an epic tragedy fueled by heroism and smelly goat cheese.
Let's then stroll back into the world of sleep, dear listener. For tonight, let Ajax remind us that in our darkest moments, sometimes we just need to poke a little fun and hope we're not the next casualty in life's great comedic tragedy.
Chapter 23. Odysseus and the Armor Argument. Ah, what a delightfully chaotic day in ancient Greece. If you've ever found yourself in a meeting where someone took way too long to decide on lunch, then you can imagine the sheer absurdity as Odysseus steps up to the stage. Not a theatrical stage with curtains, mind you, but more like the battlefield's muddy epicenter, where egos clashed louder than swords. The sun is shining but too brightly, like it's auditioning for a role as the most annoying background character in this saga. You might wonder what's going through Odysseus's mind as he prepares to debate Ajax about who gets to wear Achilles' shiny, glittering armor. Picture this. Odysseus, not one to miss an opportunity, stands there, his eyes glinting with mischief as if he just devised the juiciest prank. He might well be saying to himself, "Why wear something practical when you can have all that sparkle?" This isn't just about armor, it's about who can throw down the most persuasive and probably sarcastic argument in front of all these blood-spattered spectators who resemble a mix between spectators at a gladiatorial contest and really unfortunate football fans. Now, Ajax looms large, his shoulders as broad as a city wall, with expressions suited for only the most dramatic of Greek tragedies. He's the kind of guy who would use his brawn for brainy things, like forgetting where he put his helmet. How hard can this be? You might imagine him thinking, flexing his muscles and inadvertently making himself the least subtle contestant on an unintentional Strongest Man reality show. Seriously, can we get a "who wore it best" commentary going? Odysseus clears his throat, a melodious sound that cuts through the clamor, even as a few pigeons coo in disinterest overhead. With a flourish that could make even the most dazzling of swans envious, he begins his argument. "Ladies and gentlemen of the battlefield," he declares, "loyal lovers of controversy and possibly haters of Ajax's cologne, let me enlighten you about this shining armor and why I, Odysseus, absolutely deserve to wear it over our very own muscle-bound pebble." As he dazzles the crowd with his silver-tongued eloquence, he draws the audience in like a moth to that flickering flame of a campfire. "Imagine," he says, "if you will, the celebrations, the feasts, the sacred rituals of wearing an armor crafted specifically for someone who, let's be honest, probably spent more time posing for portraits than actually fighting." Not to be outdone, Ajax attempts one of those usual "I'm a strong and silent" type jabs, briefly forgetting that a giant man with the personality of a rock isn't really the best choice for witticisms. "I'm strong," he might bellow, gesturing in a way that sends several nearby warriors ducking in an attempt to remain unharmed from the consequences of his lack of finesse. You know that feeling when someone's enthusiasm equals imminent danger? But Odysseus, the clever trickster, presses on. "Ajax, good man, let's consider how utterly practical the situation is. Sure, you may be able to take on 20 Trojans at once, but can you also play the lyre while doing so? Or make a dramatic entrance into a tavern?" The audience chuckles, snickering as they picture poor Ajax, with his towering form, trying to simultaneously battle and serenade a rowdy group of drunken friends. "The other warriors may not appreciate your so-called battle style, Ajax," Odysseus adds, his voice dipped in honey-coated sarcasm. "At best, you might just look like a confused bear clad in armor." And then, the pièce de résistance, a flourish of sarcasm that would make anyone snicker nervously. "Please, we can't let ourselves descend into a barbaric trial by strength when it's so clearly about the aesthetics. Armor that glitters is armor that matters," he proclaims with a glint in his eye. You can practically hear the audience gasping, half awake from their own ennui. The stakes aren't merely about who gets the gear, it's about who gets the recognition, the glories,
the tune that will be sung around many a campfire long after this ridiculous day has passed. Meanwhile, Ajax is becoming increasingly dumbfounded, like someone told him that it is, in fact, Tuesday, and he thought it was Thursday. His thoughts drift to the cold armor, right now an albatross around his bulging neck. "But I'm supposed to be the hero here," he might cry, in what you'd hope was the least dramatic manner possible. And so, as the arguments continue in that dizzying ballet of banter, sprinkled with the absurdity that only great warriors could conjure, dear listener, remember, history is not unlike your own life, filled with moments of ridiculousness and unexpected twists. Who knew that an arena famously known for tragedy could also bask in the glow of wrestling competition and expressive drama? So here we find ourselves, lulled by the absurdity of Odysseus's cleverness and Ajax's bewildered confusion, as they both vie for the ultimate victory: shiny armor and the war-torn equivalent of viral fame. As thoughts dance around your mind and whisk you into a gentle slumber, just remember that sometimes it's not about who's the strongest, but rather who can spit the sharpest one-liners. And really, isn't that the battle we all face in life? Now, let your mind wade into this peculiar pond of history, dear listener. Tonight, let the absurdity gently cradle you to sleep, leaving behind the echoes of ancient arguments and the ridiculous charm of far-off battles. The world unfurls around you, one melodious quirk at a time.
Chapter 24. Ajax in the Moonlight. A Broken Hero's Lament. Ah, dear listener, welcome to the paradox of ancient heroism. They who wield swords sharper than their own egos. Now imagine you find yourself in a moonlit tent, not a cozy, inviting one like you might think, but a dark and disheveled space where loss of heroic stature is the primary decor. Oh yes, the fabric flutters like it's auditioning for a drama of its own as you slip into the tent of Ajax, a very confused and somewhat disheveled giant of a man. You find Ajax seated on a pile of his own armor, crumpled and neglected like yesterday's laundry. There he sits, a brooding shadow of his former self, illuminated solely by the glow of the moonlight, which, let's be honest, has caught him at an unflattering angle. The moon is behaving like an overzealous spotlight, highlighting not just his muscular physique, but also the existential gloom radiating from him like a cloud of regret. Think of it as your typical Tuesday morning when you just realized life has been a weird, elaborate prank and you forgot your coffee. The air inside the tent smells distinctly of sweat, old leather, and perhaps a hint of despair. The din of war is a distant echo, and the grandeur of battle has been replaced by the awkward silence of a hero watching his carefully constructed reputation deflate faster than an overripe melon. Ajax is feeling about as heroic as a cat in a bathtub. No glamour, just confusion and conflict. What happened? You can almost hear him pondering aloud as he contemplates the glimmering but unclaimed armor of Achilles, the very armor he was promised. Ah, the cruelty of fate, like having your nerdy older brother accidentally reveal your biggest crush at the family barbecue. No amount of strength could change the narrative he's living. The good hair of the battlefield versus the one-liner king, which isn't exactly the matchup you'd want on your personal highlight reel. As he gazes into the expanse of the night, you could venture a guess that he's trying to reconcile his emotions, maybe wishing for an emotional hug or a well-placed pizza. Can't a hero catch a break? Instead, he feels like a broken Wi-Fi connection, hovering between worlds of valor and oblivion, waiting for some semblance of clarity to connect. Why did Odysseus get all the glory? You can see him thinking, reminiscent of your friend from college who always managed to charm the room while you were stuck explaining the intricacies of your pet goldfish's love life. Ajax, with his enormous muscles and even larger sense of entitlement, now felt like a seasoned doubt. Instead of returning with triumph, All he had to show for his efforts was a gaping sense of inadequacy and a tipsy goat pretending to listen to his woes. In this quiet moment, he thinks of glory, something as elusive as a decent parking space in a busy city. It's like trying to juggle water balloons. It looks fun until you realize you're all wet. Ajax can almost hear the laughter of his fellow warriors, whispers that turned into echoes of mockery and scorn as the tides of battle changed. Ajax, the strong but never quite suave, they might say, rolling their eyes while munching on some rather unappetizing rations from the last raid. It's like a terrible dating profile, where promising most of the time actually means do not apply. Maybe he could update his status to strong but lonely, seeks validation in an epic poem, must love long walks to battle and overpriced shiny armor. Not your ideal dating scenario, is it? The moon, surprisingly sympathetic in its quiet glow, refracts something in Ajax. Maybe it's a glimmer of self-reflection masked as self-pity, the kind you only find when you realize your potential for greatness is overshadowed by your unfortunate knack for poor timing and tragically missed opportunities. Ajax is not simply brawn, but the embodiment of what happens when bravado collides with vulnerability, like a truly terrible sitcom. Then, in that moment of solitude, a faint sense of comedy arises. Because what kind of hero gets tangled in a web of societal expectations? The grand tapestry of Greek mythology is riddled with tales of grandeur, yet here rests Ajax, reflecting on his loss of esteem like a wayward puppy contemplating the last piece of kibble. Oh, the chaos of it all. The weathered tent, the weariness in his heart, and the resounding echo of unfortunate circumstances. If you happen to hear the wind whisper through the seams, it's really just urging Ajax to understand that, like each of us, he too is navigating this wild, wacky thing we call life. So as Ajax stares into the moonlit abyss, lost between valor and dismay, he's reminded that life is mostly about doing the best you can with what you've got, sparkly armor not included. With this whimsical thought hanging in the air like an ill-fated pop song, let's continue our journey through history, where heroes and their oversized egos collide in the most delightfully humorous ways. For while Ajax bumbles through his own emotion-laden saga, remember that it's just another chapter in the wild that is the human experience. Now drift on, dear listener. Let Ajax wipe away the dew of his shortcomings amidst the night's gentle breeze. Who knows? Perhaps beauty lies even in the most complicated scenarios of life, swaddled warmly in the absurdity of existence. Chapter 25. Helen of Troy, A Face in the Fog. Ah, dear listener, as we embark on this chapter, we find ourselves delving into perhaps the most dramatic episode in our collection of mildly interesting history. Picture, if you will, a landscape more mysterious than a cat's motives at 3 a.m. A fog-draped mountain range where the air hangs heavy with regrets, lost love, and, well, a moderate amount of divine chaos. Imagine wandering alone amidst these hills, each step echoing louder than the last, chased by the ominous whispers of the Furies, who, let's be honest, are basically ancient Greek drama queens. You're not just any traveler. You're the exquisite Helen, the woman whose beauty sparked a war that launched not just ships, but also 1,000 unfortunate puns about naval woes. And here you are, stranded in the wilderness, leaving both admirers and critics alike scratching their heads in bewilderment. The air is crisp, with aromas of damp earth and hints of far-off brambles, barely masking the underlying scent of bad decisions and misplaced loyalties. As fog swirls around your lovely figure, it's like you're in the midst of a romantic yet slightly bewildering scene from an ancient soap opera, where all characters are overly dramatic, but without the comforting presence of a popcorn machine. A slight chill runs down your spine. You might call it existential dread mixed with a bit of cold,
but let's not overthink it. As you stroll, or rather shuffle mournfully through this misty domain, you might start to ponder some very important questions. For instance, which of the heroes fighting over you knows the difference between shampoo and conditioner? Can they even handle basic laundry? Because let's be honest, you wouldn't still be out here if they had simply split the laundry duties instead of embarking on that ludicrous war. And how about those warriors' grooming habits? Ever try having a deep conversation with someone who can't tell the difference between fleece and flesh when it comes to armor choices? Now that's a saga deserving of a modern-day tweet storm. But back to the drama, shall we? With each gentle rustle of your silken gown, you feel echoes of those very ships you launched, the lumbering vessels of those heroic men yearning across the Mediterranean in pursuit of you. They might be a tad misguided in their aspirations, though. Let's not forget that, while they were busy engaging in some very hackneyed naval warfare, you were likely reminiscing about that time at the neighborhood potluck where Hector accidentally used garlic instead of lemons in the hummus. That'll teach him, you chuckle to yourself. But wait, a rustle. You stop, heart racing like a Trojan horse galloping through a parade. What could it be? Just your overactive imagination? Or perhaps it's that one particularly indecisive fury trying to figure out whether to haunt you or channel their energies into a haunted blanket.
Fort. Even they can be a little confused at times, or maybe they just have an eye for home decor. As you press on, the fog thickens, and the mountains loom larger, almost as if they're trying to put up a "Do Not Enter" sign for epic failures. Ever feel that hopelessness, you wonder? The kind that's like attempting to assemble IKEA furniture without directions and with an oddly shaped Allen wrench that looks more like a medieval torture device? Exactly. Suddenly, you hear the bumps and thumps of your long-lost followers, the unrelenting Trojan warriors. They are legendary for their courage, but seem decidedly less organized than a group project in college. Achilles, where are you going? I thought you said left. Is that a snake market or just some overzealous rocks? And just like that, one Wildian thought leaps into your mind, echoing like a poorly played lute. These ancient heroes, mesmerized by your face and all, are right now wrapped up in their own idiocy. How is it that centuries later, we still see the same comedic threads weaving through the fabric of humanity? Men charging straight into confusion, while women like you are left carrying the actual reality of being the prize and the blamed party in the ensuing chaos. Now lost in this delightful maze of poetic irony and poetic license, you find yourself contemplating how all this went downhill so fast. Couldn't they have just taken a beauty course or worked out a casual brunch instead of this catastrophic conflict? Maybe everyone in the ancient world had a touch of the melodrama. After all, what is a Greek tragedy without a bit of comic relief? So, as you meander through this foggy, mountainous backdrop, feeling every ounce of the weight of your beauty and the absurdity of it all, just remember, you might be alone, but within this absurd landscape lies the very essence of dramatic irony, a comedy waiting to unfold. Imagine the post-war conversations, with everyone vying to make sense of all this mayhem. Did we really need to fight about Helen? Shouldn't we have asked if she wanted takeout instead? Let these thoughts lift your spirits, dear listener, as the mountains sigh around you like an ancient crowd muttering, "Can you believe this? Should have picked a simpler prize." And so, we leave Helen, contemplating her slightly unfortunate but utterly relatable circumstances, surrounded by the mountains that bear witness to both her beauty and the folly of those who dare contest it. Isn't history a riot?
As we drift toward the end of tonight's long, winding journey, take a moment to breathe and let the echoes of ancient Troy settle softly in your mind. We've walked beside heroes who carried impossible burdens, wandered through storms stirred by temperamental gods, and watched warriors stumble through fate, heartbreak, bewilderment, and even the occasional absurd mishap.
Their days were heavy, filled with struggle, sacrifice, longing, and the kind of exhaustion that lived not just in the body, but in the spirit. And yet, somehow, they endured. For all the chaos woven through their lives, there was resilience, quiet, powerful, and deeply human. These people survived more than battles. They survived the confusion of destiny, the unpredictability of the gods, and the hilarity of simply trying to make it through a day in a world that rarely made sense. Their stories remind us that even in ages of hardship, humanity found ways to laugh, to hope, and to keep moving forward. As you lie here now, wrapped in the softness of a bed they could never have imagined, listening to the steady hum of a fan instead of the roar of oceans or war, maybe let a small gratitude settle over you. For safety, for warmth, for peace, for the quiet privilege of drifting into sleep without needing to wrestle a sea god, outwit a nymph, or navigate the aftermath of a 10-year war. Let your breathing slow. Let your thoughts loosen. Let the ancient world dim gently behind you, like a fire burning down to soft embers. You've wandered far tonight. Now, it's time to rest. May your dreams be calm, your night be peaceful, and your spirit find the quiet that heroes of old never could. Good night.